Right, so you're the administrator for Voice for Children, Neil McMurray. Right. How did you become one of the most prolific anti-child abuse campaigners in Jersey? Like, where did it all start from you?
Back in around about 2005, I became aware of some alleged abuses going on. And I did what any good citizen would do, and I took it to the correct channels, to the complaints people. And then I quickly discovered that they were covering it up and they were going to protect the alleged abuser or abusers.
When you say became aware, like, where did you hear it from? Like,
well, I was taking the complaints to the body that you're supposed to take these complaints to.
Right, I see, yeah.
And they were just shutting the door in my face.
Right.
And, oh, bloody hell, where do you go? Where do I turn over here? Where can I go to get justice or, done? And I was forced to go to the media. I thought, I wasn't political in any way, shape or form. In fact, I used to brag about Jersey. I used to defend Jersey. I've worked all over the UK on the deep sea trawlers. But anyway, going back to, the only place left I had to go was the media.
Yeah.
I'm going to blow this out the bloody water here. What's going on? The way these people are covering this stuff up.
Yeah.
And I went to the media. I then realised the media are covering this stuff up. And you've got to remember, this is quite some time ago. The internet hadn't really picked up by this.
Yeah, especially social media and stuff like that. It wasn't really a big thing, was it?
No, there was no Twitter. Yeah. Then, I think Facebook was very early in its early stages.
It wasn't big though, was it?
No, no. So I thought, bloody hell, now what do I do? Where do I go? How can I protect a child on this island if the media and the authorities are covering it up? And that's when I first thought, the internet. That's the only place I got. Don't forget, I thought, well, I didn't come to the decision lightly that the media are in on the cover up, because that's very paranoid. That's very...
Yeah, you have to second guess yourself a couple of times. Yeah.
And that's a hell of a journey to go through on your own.
Yeah.
You're thinking, crikey, is it me? Am I paranoid?
Yeah.
Can this really be happening? These are dark times, Eddie, that I was going through on a psychological basis, on an emotional basis.
Well, it will be, because if the ground beneath you isn't solid and you start questioning it or second guessing it, it's not a good place for anyone to be. And we've all been down there. Do you know what I mean? We've all been down that road.
So I thought, well, what else can I do? I thought, this just can't happen. It's not right. What's going on is wrong, and it can't just be happening to me. So I cut a long story short, I bought a computer. I'd never switched a computer on in my life, but I thought, I need to get this out there. And I came across a couple of websites and a chat forum, Planet Jersey it was at the time, the chat forum.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, that was years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it was good.
Is that still going?
No, it's not, unfortunately. A friend of mine took it over. Well, two friends of mine took it over. But I think it's gone now, unfortunately. But when it first started, and for a while it was good. You could air, and then. But the good thing about it for me was thinking, I'm not on my own. I'm not alone. I still daren't say, look, I think the media are in on the cover up with the government and that, But then you start reading the stuff and you think, do you know what? I'm not on my own. I'm going to throw a little tester out there. I daren't say, look, the media are in a cover up with the government, but things along those lines. And more people were saying the same sort of thing, So I thought, great. So what I did, I started up a blog, and I thought, I was very naive. I didn't know anything about the internet, I just said. And I thought, well, all I've got to do is put something up on the internet. It's gonna blow people's minds all around the island, if not all around the world.
Yeah.
And millions of people are going to see it. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I thought, that'll do it. That'll do the trick. As soon as millions of people see this, they're going to think, God Almighty, what a corrupt place Jersey is, and But of course, I think I had about 10 people. You had a little stats. You could see how many people had been on your blog, and I think about 10 people in a day had been on there. Like, that can't be right. It must be counting wrong. So that's how I first started, and I'd named a alleged abuser and others on my blog because I was all new to this. And the law officers department, like they did with Stuart Syvret, I'm going back 2005, 2006 now. They got my first blog closed down.
How do they do that? Is there not like you're not protected by freedom of speech over here, or?
They contacted the administrators of the blog. I've forgotten what I think. I don't know if it's WordPress or something like that. I can't remember the name of it. I think it's MSN.
Yeah.
And of course, it made me panic. I thought, God, I don't want to. So having blogs closed down and start getting into trouble over this. Saying the wrong thing, but I had nowhere left to go. Mm-hmm. I had done it. I had exhausted everything over here. Realised everything had been covered up. So I said and done, I wrote stuff now that I know possibly to be, I don't know if it's libelous or defamatory. But I think it's only libelous if it's not true.
Yeah.
So,
that's still open to interpretation.
But the problem is over here, we've got a corrupt judiciary, a corrupt court system. So I thought, I can't take any battle on. Firstly, I can't afford it. And I know no matter what it is, I'm going to lose it because the courts are bent, they're corrupt. So then I started up another blog, Voice for Children, on blogspot.com.
So Voice for Children was your second officially?
Yeah, I think the first one was called Voice for Children.
Right.
I think it was. I can't really remember now, but I'm quite sure it was. Because I wanted to be a voice for children, So I started, and as it would happen, it's around about 2007 and Operation Rectangle, the big child abuse investigation under Lenny, Harper and Graham Power went public. Now, because I remember before, sorry, I'll just go back a bit, and Stuart Syvret, before that, was the health minister, the Senator Stuart Syvret, and he was speaking about all this cover-up, corruption, child abuse, all that. I thought, this guy is speaking my language.
Yeah.
He's a politician. Not only a politician, he's the most senior politician, senior senator there, father of the house. And what he's saying is 100% true.
So you didn't know Stuart up until then, or?
I'd seen bits of him on the tally. I'd seen him around and I hadn't spoken to him. No.
Right.
So Stuart was, saying, I knew what he was saying was true because I'd been through it.
Yeah.
About the cover-up, collusion. And he's getting all this bad press. I knew what the media are like, but then, and I said, Stuart, you need to get your voice out there. Mm-hmm. I said, I've got a blog, not many people read it. I'm trying to grow the readership on it, but I said, you need to get a blog, and then, again, cut a long story short, we set up a blog for him.
I can't believe that. So you got Stuart into blogging?
Yeah.
That's mental.
There'll be a lot of people that don't like me for that, I'll tell you. And his blog just went stratospheric. It went huge.
Yeah.
It went massive. Sort of just put mine into the shadows, But I'd always leave a comment on Stuart's blog with a link to the latest blog I'd put on, and I'd get a lot of traffic from that. So, my blog grew as a result because Stuart's blog helped my blog. And then Operation Rectangle went live, the Jersey child abuse investigation from the police.
That was what, 2007 when
late
that went live?
2007.
Right.
And I thought, all right, here we go. This is going to be interesting. And I'd see like Lenny, Harper on the police. I got no real had no real time for the cops.
Yeah.
It's the bloody cops. They're bent, they're corrupt. Of course, that's the way the cops have always been bent and corrupt over here as well. So I thought, listen to him. I thought, well, I don't know. I think, he does seem quite genuine, this guy, Lenny Harper.
Lenny, yeah.
Yeah. And the more he spoke, the more I seen him, the more confidence I got in him. I thought, he knows what he's up against, this guy. I knew what he'd be up. I didn't know whether Lenny Harper knew what he'd be up against or not, because I didn't know. To this day, I've never met Lenny Harper.
Yeah.
I've interviewed him many times. I thought, does this guy know what he's going to be up against? Because if he's going to be looking into decades of child abuse on this island that's been concealed and covered up, I thought the establishment, especially the corrupt judiciary, are going to come after, and the corrupt media are going to come after him.
Yeah.
And they did. They did.
Yeah. To say the least.
Yeah. But at the beginning, I thought, right, so what I was doing then is, because it chimed with everything I knew and I was aware of, I thought, I'm going to blog about this. I'm going to get the information. Don't forget, when we first started blogging, I need to take it back a bit, we're quite influenced by, we're very angry at the government, at the judiciary, at the media, and we would be calling people gangsters, shysters and spivs and everything out of anger, but that doesn't get you anywhere. You're just having a rant, you're just having a rave. And I thought, well, I wanted to make things better. I wanted change. And I wanted to, in fact, it was Leah McGrath Goodman that said to me once about writing a blog. She said, write it as if none of your readers believe what you're saying. As in, back everything you can up with evidence. Don't just say it.
Yeah.
And well, that was a good lesson to learn.
So it's not just like an opinion piece, it's actually backed.
It's just fact. And we thought we are, at this time, I'm going to base everything on fact, on official documents. Mm-hmm. And, the blog grew. It got very big for Jersey standards.
Yeah.
It's not...
Well, like I said before, the first time I heard about you was probably, it would have been you first and then Syvret, or the other way around, I can't remember. But when I was about 19, 20, and I moved into a flat, and I can't remember how I came across it, because I definitely wasn't on Facebook, I wasn't on Twitter or anything like that, there was no social media back then.
No.
It was probably just Googling stuff about, around that time, obviously the Operation Rectangle and stuff like that, and everything that was coming out of the media, and then you read CNN and other stuff like that, just out of intrigue, I think it was. And then I think it was in the comment section of one of them stories, one of the national headlines, where someone said, go and have a look at this. It was like a link to either yours or Syvret's. And I must have sat there for, it would have been weeks. I just sat there trawling through it all, going, and again, like you felt, oh fuck, someone actually does know. But if you're not in that sort of place, watching local news and listening to normal, just everyday people, you wouldn't have a fucking clue.
Well, this is it. Again, you hit the nail on the head there when you say about the local news, because what was happening was the local news was just putting out spin, lies, propaganda.
Yeah.
They were lobbying against the likes of Stuart Syvret, Lenny Harper and the rest of them. And I used to be accused. I think I've said this previously. They say, oh, you're just putting out one side of the story. You're just putting out one side. I said, yes, I am. That's exactly what I'm doing. Because the media are putting out the other side.
Well, the truth rarely has a side. It's just the truth.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, the media are putting out all the anti-Syvret stuff, all the anti-Lenny Harper, anti-Lenny Graham Powell. And I was on, hang on a minute. There's two sides to this,
Yeah.
So I was telling the other side. So when people used to accuse me, oh, you're just putting out one side. I said, yeah, because I'm trying to add balance to the absolute shite that the media were putting out.
Do you think they knew that they're burying themselves then? Because the trust in the media is, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's low.
It's over here, it's quite high compared to in the UK, from what I've been told, but only 37% of islanders, according to the latest social survey, only 37% of islanders trust the mainstream media. But again, you've got to remember, we're talking about an era when there was, like you said, very little social media, very little internet sort of stuff.
No second opinion, basically.
Yeah, that's right. So, if it's on the media, you think, oh, well, it must be true. It was on the news.
Yeah.
And that's the way a lot of us were brought up. Well, it's on the news. It has to be true.
Yeah.
But, of course, now we're coming into an era where people could do their own investigations, their own research.
Yeah.
And I was publishing... some of the stuff I was publishing, like for instance, when the Operation Rectangle broke, and Lenny Harper was mentored by, it was the Association of Chief Police Officers Homicide Working Group. So, if you like, Lenny Harper wasn't doing it on his own. He was being mentored and watched by a lead detective from the UK,
Right.
from the Association of Chief Police Officers Homicide Working Group, ACPO, Association of Chief Police Officers. Now, they wrote 4 reports, ACPO did,
Yeah.
basically praising the investigation, of the Operation Rectangle investigation.
Right.
In fact, in one of the reports, they said this is a textbook example of how an investigation like this should be run. But of course, none of those reports were on the media. Not the media didn't report one of those reports. We got leaked these reports, and we published them.
So this ACPO thing, what's it stand for again?
Association of Chief Police Officers.
Right. So that's obviously going to give breath to the fact that Lenny was actually doing a good job.
Yeah, yeah.
And yet, but just to go back a little bit as well, was Lenny Harper in any way, could he ever give his side of events, or is there like something where you're the copper, you can't say anything, or?
No, Lenny, then, because they say he's given press briefings and everything. Now, again,
it's only a briefing, isn't it? It's only a summarisation of 2 minutes or whatever for,
So obviously he couldn't talk about live investigations or anything like that.
Yeah.
But when all the media was lobbying against him, saying, oh, this was, and especially we jump forward a few years when the likes of Mick Gradwell come over and took over from Lenny, said, oh, this is the worst policing I've seen in 30 years. Unprecedented that a serving police officer would attack another serving police officer's investigation whilst it's still live.
Yeah.
Operation, this was all going on. I thought, hang on, what about the ACPO reports? Because the media never mentioned the ACPO reports. So anything negative about the Operation Rectangle under Lenny Harper and Graham Power got out on the media.
Yeah.
I was publishing the positive stuff.
Yeah.
So then, of course, I mean, we are jumping forward. Lenny was very rarely asked for his side of the story. I remember, it's down to Rico and myself, Deputy Trevor Pittman was the head of a scrutiny panel, and he agreed, because BDO, there's BDO Alto, they were doing a review into the spending of Operation Rectangle.
Yeah.
So they went after Lenny for the money. So everybody was talking about the money.
Yeah, because if you want to get the public to shit their pants, you basically just mention money about anything, taxpayers' money.
Yeah. So whilst it was ongoing, I said to Lenny Harper, in fact, it was during an interview with him, I said, have you given evidence to the BDO review?
Yeah. He's
like, what's that? I said, the review they're doing on the spending of your spending on the Operation Rectangle. He said, I didn't know there was a review. I didn't know there was. So he wasn't asked, the man who spent the money wasn't asked to be as a witness. He didn't even know this investigation was going on.
Well, that's a hatchet job, straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but because of that, you should read that report. It's been, the scrutiny panel looked into that BDO report and how the media reported on that report. And the scrutiny panel, under the chairmanship of Deputy Trevor Pittman at the time, it's been called the most defining report of its era because it exposed the media for what it was. It was misrepresenting what was in that report, the BDO report, to attack Lenny Harper. But the very interesting thing of this came out in the scrutiny review is Mick Gradwell, the copper who took over from Lenny after Lenny retired.
Who was the other guy? Walkup?
David Walkup. He took over from Graham Power.
That's it, yeah.
Well, in fact, David Walkup did come over as a senior investigating officer, taken over from Lenny Harper, but inevitably it was Mick Gradwell who come and took over from Lenny.
Yeah.
And it came out in these scrutiny hearings that Mick Gradwell had been leaking confidential police information to the, I say journalist, but he's not, to the child abuse investigation wrecker David Rose.
Who did he work for?
The Daily Mail. He wrote a piece, or the Sunday Mail.
Right.
He's a well-known...
Oh, that fucking prick. I know what you mean. Yeah.
He's a Savile skeptic. He doesn't believe child abuse survivors. So Gradwell it came out in the scrutiny review that Gradwell was leaking, during a live child abuse investigation, leaking confidential information to David Rose. And you know the irony of this is the beauty of it. Well, not the beauty of it. It's how sick. The Jersey Evening Post is under a different editor now, so I don't. It's. I'm not saying it's the best newspaper in the world, but it's come a long way under this new editor. Yeah. I've got to say, I've got a bit of confidence in this new editor. But they wrote a piece basically calling Mick Gradwell a whistleblower. So this is a chief, a police officer, leaking confidential police information during a live child abuse investigation to a journalist who has a history of trashing child abuse victims and
they called him a whistleblower.
Called him a whistleblower,
as if to give him credibility.
Yeah. This is how they're lobbying against Lenny.
That's sinister as fuck.
Well,
to give him that title as if he's doing something good, but clearly he's not.
But of course, before that, Lenny Harper was accused by the likes of Ben Shenton, Jimmy Pershard, and Deputy Sean Power at the time. They were saying, we think, basically they were saying that Lenny Harper could have been leaking information to the news of the world whilst the ongoing child abuse thing was going on. Could have been.
Right.
He never was.
Yeah.
And it never came out that he was. But all this dirt was going to Lenny. They're saying, he's probably given secrets to the news of the world, where he wasn't. And he was a bad guy if he was doing that. Mick Gradwell gets found out for leaking information. And he, first of all, he denied he was doing it, and he had to admit it in the end, Gradwell.
And they call him a whistleblower.
And he's a whistleblower.
That's pretty sadistic to do that. That's beyond the realms of that's not like a mistake. That's not something that you can bounce back from either.
No. It's always
if it's good for the goose, it's good for the fucking gander sort of thing. Yeah.
And you see, again, before Operation Rectangle, you've got to remember the Jersey Evening Post, under different editors, were saying, this is before Rectangle, saying what fantastic cops Lenny and Graham are. Lenny is great because he's rooting out all the corruption in the police force, the corrupt cops and everything like that, because they have been subject to some HMIC reports, Her Majesty's Inspector of Constabulary, and there were damning reports on the. So Lenny, when he come over to, I think it's 2002, he was going to root out all this corruption, and there was opinion pieces in the JEP. What a fantastic guy he is. But then fast forward a few years,
they told him.
Yeah, he's investigating child abuse. Well, him and Graham Power, from being the best two cops in the world, overnight, all of a sudden, they're the worst two cops in the world. And I think I've said, how the bloody hell did that happen? So
the question is, though, this is what I mean. So, like, now that people are watching this now, we can rewind back then and think that we weren't well informed. Obviously, because we didn't have the internet, we didn't have anyone else's voice. It was rare that anyone would actually go and find, opposition, so to speak. You just take it as, gospel. If you hear it on the news, like I said before, it's gospel, right? Now that we know, the question has to be, why? Like, why would they cover that up? Is it reputational stuff, like Frank Walker said, you're damaging the reputation of Jersey, or is it because they have a dog in the race? What do you think it is? Obviously, this is skepticism. But...
Well, this is, pure speculation.
Yeah.
But word reached me, that is the question. Is it about reputation? We are a offshore finance centre, or as people call it, a tax haven.
Yeah.
Tax havens don't like the light being shone on them.
For any reason.
For any reason. Yeah. They don't want any public, they just want to lay below the radar.
Like gangsters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Stuart say, or most of it, like the mafia, So, I know, I've been told that the reasons that they want it hidden could be coming out as a result of the Hoog papers. I don't know if you're aware of the papers. There's 350,000 pages.
Oh, that's the thing about tax havens, isn't it?
It's about alleged money laundering.
Is it something to do with a princess or something?
Yeah, it's the Dix family. I think it's Tara or Tonya Dix and her husband Darren Dix.
Right, now it rings a bell, yeah. But just give us a brief summary of what it is.
From what I've heard, I mean, it's way above my pay grade. I don't know a lot about it, but I've heard, that there's, there's been talk of arms dealings and money laundering and all this sort of stuff going on. So there is a chain of thought out there that, child abuse, if there's light shone on about the child abuse, if somebody shines the light somewhere else where they don't want it to be shined, that could be a huge problem. That again, like I say, is speculation. These are what just people are thinking and saying, and you've got to listen to this sort of stuff, because what I do know is the official narrative is never the bloody truth, or very rarely the truth. So if the media are saying something and the official line is something, you think, well, I know. See, this is where we always got to, again, it's because of the likes of the Rotherham grooming gangs, the Jimmy Savile, the Magdalen Laundries, Kincora, North Wales, all these, the Catholic Church, child abuse investigations that go on. What we should, the starting point now should be, it's a cover-up. Mm-hmm. And the authorities have to prove otherwise. Yeah. It's always been that we think, we're saying, right, it's a cover-up, and we've got to prove it's a cover-up. Yeah. Well, that shouldn't be that now. It should be, hang on a minute, we're starting, it's a cover-up. You have to prove to us it's not a cover-up. But people don't think like that. The table always gets turned by the official narrative saying, oh, well, like you just said, well, why are they covering it up? I don't know why they're covering it up. I can speculate. But they have to prove, that the onus should be on the establishment and the authority to prove that it's not a cover-up. The onus shouldn't be on me to prove that it is one, especially in light of Savile, Kincora, Magdalen Laundries, Rotherham, Operation Rectangle.
Well, to think about it, just logistically, if you have, no bias in the conversation, if the narrative that comes from the establishment or, the local press doesn't add up, and speculation does. Speculation is different to a conspiracy theory. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But if the speculation holds weight more than the narrative, and with time as it goes on, it looks more and more likely that the speculation holds more weight than the official narrative. Yeah. If that continues to be the case, you could say that about literally anything. Do you know what I mean? About any story that's ever been run, big story anyway. So the Gulf of Tonkin, do you know what I mean? 9/11, anything. It doesn't matter where you sit. You can always sit there and say, well, the further we go on, the more we look back and go, they were always right. And it's not to say anything bad about anyone, whether they lean towards a conspiracy or not. And I'm not angry at the conspiracy theorists, because a lot of people laugh at them, and that's another target, another name that people throw on people, so they should be dispelled. Yeah. People turn around and go, I don't listen to him, he's a conspiracy theorist.
By the
FBI.
CIA.
CIA, yeah. So it's basically a slur to throw at people to say, well, don't listen to them, they're fucking conspiracy theorists. They tend to be right more than you, which is a fucking problem. Yeah. So I'm never angry at the conspiracy, even the fucking people who think the world is flat. I don't care. Yeah. I blame the people who made them that way inclined to sit there and say, some people go down a rabbit hole, they're totally wrong. Some people go down and they find 50-50. Some people are fucking very right. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's them that created that need to go and find out the truth.
I remember Rob Shipley was the deputy editor of the Jersey Evening Post. He wrote a column in the Jersey Evening Post, basically attacking us bloggers, calling us, I don't think he called us, they were calling us conspiracy theories. Yeah. He said, these new kids on the block, these citizens media and all that, don't forget, we were putting out official documents.
Evidence-based.
Official documented evidence. He said, the citizens journalists or citizens media, he said, would you like a citizens brain surgeon to come and do an operation? Would you like a citizens, fireman or whatever?
Who's this prick?
Rob Shipley. He was a deputy editor of the Jersey Evening Post at the time. And I said I wrote a blog about it. I published it on my blog, and I said, well, citizens media is here. And I said, don't blame us. I said, blame yourself. It was you who created us. Yeah. If you were doing your job as a journalist, as a real journalist, there'll be no need for our blogs. You and the rest of the media. I can't just pick on the JEP for this, but it was the rest of the island's media as well.
Yeah.
They created our blogs because they were putting out the lies and the propaganda, and wouldn't give both sides of a story. we were given the other side. So it was the media who created us at the end of the day. Like, you know, so I said in that blog, you know, it's your fault that we're here if you would have been doing your job. Like I said, when I gave evidence to the care inquiry, I was asked to give evidence 3 times to the independent Jersey care inquiry. And we went and met with the media. But we weren't allowed to, so that there was the media and bloggers there.
Yeah.
But it's only the Bailiwick Express and the Jersey Evening Post that turned up. Channel Television bottled out and BBC bottled out. And
That's not surprising.
Yeah, this was not the first time they bottled out either. And we were giving evidence to the care inquiry. But we weren't allowed to discuss from 2008 onwards, what was happening during what the reporting was in Operation Rectangle. For some unknown reason, the chairman of the panel of the Independent Jersey Care Inquiry, Francis Oldham QC, said we're not allowed to discuss that, of their reporting. I mean, back in 2008.
Of the media's reporting?
Yeah. Which is only like, you know, how we can build bridges and the rest of it, like, you know. And it was just unbelievable how we weren't allowed to discuss that. But it's something I heard from Anna Brees, who's a journalist. She's online more. She's ex-BBC, ex-ITV. She had said it. A journalist over here thinks that if somebody says it's raining, then they have to interview that person who says it's raining, but they've got to go and find somebody who says it's not raining.
Yeah, I've heard that. Funny enough, that's what John Grist said as well about everything. He said that but it works in both ways. So if you're saying something that's actually tangible and honest, you also have to find someone who's equally as dishonest sometimes.
Well, I think the journalists think they've got to tell both sides to get a balanced story.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
they think that's their job, to put out a balanced story. So they think, I've reported on the guy who said it's raining, and I've reported on the girl or guy who says it's not raining.
Yeah.
So that's my job done. Well, I say, well, that's not your job done. It's your job to stick your head out the fucking window.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's, you know, but this is the way, pardon my French, this is what journalism should be, not reporting what people say.
Yeah.
We can all report what people say.
Well, that's a new tactic they use now, because on every national newspaper, whenever it's usually like a celebrity thing, but sometimes it echoes into politics and stuff. It's so Boris Johnson said this, and here's what some fucktard on Twitter said, and you're like, I don't care about him. Yeah. How did you pull him out the hat? Do you know what I mean? Who is he? Is there any reference? Is he a political analyst? Is he this? Is he that? No, just Charlie on fucking Twitter, or someone. Or it's usually about someone who, you know, Jordan, Katie Price, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, so and so crashed their car, and then this is what someone said on Twitter, and you're like, no one gives a fuck. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's on Twitter. We can go and read out ourselves. Yeah. But again, like I say, it's a new version of lazy journalism. But back then, it wasn't necessarily lazy. It just seems like it was ingrained.
Well, yeah, it was. There was a determined effort to discredit Lenny, Harper, Graham Power, Stuart Syvret. By discrediting them, they discredit the abuse survivors. There's no other way around it. There's you know, you can't say, oh, it was bad journalism, or, you know, it was lazy journalism. No,
you hurt people.
Yeah, it was they were going all out to shut this investigation. You know, don't forget, Stuart Syvret leaked the BBC after Graham Power was possibly, the chief of police was possibly illegally suspended on what looks to be a pack of lies. Mm-hmm. They got the Wiltshire the Wiltshire police report to the police constabulary to because they were going to take Graham Power to a disciplinary hearing. Mm-hmm. So they got the Wiltshire police to find any dirt they could on Graham Power.
Right.
So the Wiltshire, if you like, are the prosecution. So Wiltshire published their report. Now, this report should never have been published. Ian Lamocco that put it, made it public, and it should never have seen the light of day. It was exempt from freedom of information.
Right.
Of course, it was a prosecution case. Ian Lamocco published this case, so they put out a prosecution case against somebody. So Graham Power had a defence case to this.
Yeah.
62,000 word, 92 page document.
Right.
All the media had been had been reporting on the prosecution case. Stuart Syvret got hold of the defence case, and he gave it to the BBC. He said, well, you know, you've got to put out both sides of a story. Here's the defence case.
Yeah.
The BBC buried it. He gave it to the JEP, he gave it to ITV Channel Television, he gave it to all the mainstream media over here. They all buried it. So only a prosecution case went out against Graham Power. This prosecution case was basically, like I say, for a disciplinary hearing that never happened. There was never was a disciplinary hearing. They just wanted dirt on Graham Power to make him look bad. He was robbed of a disciplinary hearing in a mock-up. You know, it just didn't happen.
Was that the reason that prosecution case, was that the reason he got fired?
Do you know, we still don't know why he got fired or suspended.
Right.
To this day, we don't know. There's been that many different stories told by Andrew Lewis. I don't know what the true story is. So they said he wasn't looking after Operation Rectangle properly, or wasn't looking after Lenny Harper properly. But then Andrew Lewis said, well, up until he got a letter from David Walkup, who was going to be taken over from Graham Power and get chief of police and get a bigger pension. He got a letter from David Walkup that Andrew Lewis thought the Graham Power and the investigation was going really well.
So, because just staying on this now, because I wanted to ask Stuart this when he was here, but I don't think I did, because it must skip my mind. But it's the one thing that pisses me off to this day, because while we're talking about the media and their lies, they spun the coconut theory more than any. If you ask the average person, 10 people in the street now, what did they find at Haute de la Garenne? I guarantee that 9 people turn around and say a coconut.
Yeah. Now,
what was the actual evidence surrounding that? Because that's the one thing that pisses me off about every time I talk about this sort of stuff.
Yeah. See, now you and I are playing into the media's hands, because we're talking about a coconut here. You know, we should have been talking about, you know, as back then they were putting out what Lenny Harper was eating in London restaurants, how much he had spent on a fucking prawn cocktail, how much he had spent. No one was talking about the abuse. Yeah. So now, whilst you and I are talking about this coconut, we're not talking about the abuse and corruption. Yeah. And this, you know, we're falling into their hands. But because the media have made this such a big story, you know, we need to put some facts out there.
Yeah, it needs to be addressed, 100%.
Now, it was first not diagnosed, what was it? Identified by a well-renowned anthropologist, Julie Roberts, as a piece of child's skull when it was unearthed at Haute de la Garenne. Bearing in mind that wasn't the only child remains found up at Haute de la Garenne. There was plenty more, but we don't get to hear about them. So not only did she say it's a piece of child's skull, before that there was a EVR dog in there, EVRD dog, a cadaver dog. Eddie.
Eddie the cadaver dog. Yeah.
And Keela the blood dog. Anyway, Eddie had alerted to the area where this piece of child's skull was found.
Right.
So they dig the area, around the area, and they find this piece of child's skull. Julie Roberts said, well, look, you know, I believe she didn't just say it was a piece of child's skull. She said what part of the skull it came from. So there it is. This is the skull. Now, people, I hope your viewers, if they haven't seen the documentary Dark Secrets of a $1 Trillion Island, Garenne, this did come out on there, but it's only a glimpsing piece. Now, so here's this piece of child's skull in a bag. It's called Jar 6. It's in an evidence bag. Now, I signed for it. I've got it. It's in my possession.
Yeah.
Now, I want to send it to you to have a look at. So when I give it to you, you sign for it. Okay, such and such a date. Neil gave me this, so we know exactly where this piece of evidence is going. Who got it? Who's received it? When they've received it?
And every time they open it, they sign it, and then beforehand, Yeah.
So if they pass it on to someone else, it's all signed for. So there's an audit trail. You know who has looked at this piece of evidence. Well, there was no audit trail with Jar 6, with the child's skull, after it left the UK. So when it came back from the UK, Julie Roberts had said it's changed in size, texture and colour, I think it was. She said it changed. This unaudited piece of evidence is different to when she last had it. Now, to put that into perspective, let's just say Lenny Harper did want to use that piece of evidence in a court case.
Yeah.
The first thing the defence lawyers are going to say, or the other side is going to say, well, you can't even prove that's the same bit of bloody evidence that you sent away.
Yeah.
So, you can't use that evidence in court because you can't prove it's the same piece. Do you understand?
Is there no way that they could have said, well, the first person it went away to, who was the first and last person who's seen it? Because surely that's like a bigger fuck up there. Because now you're involving the British authorities as well.
Well, that's right, because it went to Oxford. It went to, again, if people have seen the documentary $1 Trillion Island, Dark Secrets of a $1 Trillion Island, you'll see it went to Higham, this chap in, I think it's Oxford. He was laughing that he had leaked stuff to David Rose. Here he is, David Rose again.
I remember this, yeah.
He found it funny, that a whole child abuse investigation was ridiculed because of the, over this coconut sketch, But of course, David Rose's name turns up again. But yeah, so the bottom line is, Lenny Harper or the Jersey police didn't know where this piece of evidence had been and who had hold of it.
So straight away, it's inadmissible. It's
inadmissible as evidence.
Gone,
You couldn't prove it's the same thing. And especially with the anthropologist saying it's changed in size, texture and colour since I've seen it last.
Yeah.
So born from that, because somebody said, oh, it looks like a piece of coconut, that was it. That's what the media needed to ridicule Lenny and discredit the abuse survivors and the investigation.
Yeah.
When the fact of the matter is, it's almost certainly a piece of child skull. It also contained 1.6% collagen,
which can't be found in coconuts.
No.
Yeah. It's in mammals.
Only found in mammals.
Yeah.
And of course, the cadaver dog had alerted to it as well. So it doesn't alert to wood.
So you've got a cadaver dog that alerted you first to the place. You've then got people who dug it up and seen it, and then you've got an anthropologist who actually said, yeah, it looks like what it is. And on top of that, you've got the fact that it contained collagen.
1.6% collagen.
So all of that, and then it only takes whatever happened in it going from A to B to be fucked up and ridiculed and lost in translation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's like, now you look, channel television was the worst for it and still is, they'll say, oh, Lenny Harper, who basically dug up a piece of coconut. And that isn't true. That's a lie. That is an out and out lie. It wasn't a piece of coconut. It was a piece of child skull containing 1.6% collagen.
Were they aware at the time? Did they ever report that it was a skull? And did they ever say what you just said about the anthropologist and the collagen content?
No,
they've never said that.
They've never said it contained, as far as I'm aware, never said it was 1.6% collagen. They never said, none of the media have ever said, it looks like it's been switched. And again, we come down to, they just report. So you just got to say anything and the media will repeat it. So say, oh, by the way, it's coconut. Okay, that'll do. Oh, it's coconut. But they don't report when you say, well, wait a minute, it looks like it's been switched. The piece of evidence has been switched. That's never been reported by the mainstream media.
And along with that, obviously, they found children's teeth and was it bits of bone?
Yeah, well, again, we were chatting before about the official line not stacking up. Now, Lenny Harper, I always use this because it's my favourite saying of his, this wouldn't make for a credible fictitious story. You couldn't sell this shit as fiction. You really couldn't. Now, the official line with the teeth, 65 children's teeth were found up at Haute de la Garenne. Some of them that could not have been shed naturally.
Right.
All found in the same place, under the floorboards, in a cellar. I think, that Mick Gradwell said the cellars don't exist. But
when we've seen I've Been Bad for Years written on the fucking pillars, Well,
I went up there and filmed the cellars that Mick Gradwell said didn't exist. So there's 65 children's teeth down there, some of roots still attached. Mick Gradwell, he's a senior investigating officer of the child abuse investigation who has taken over from Lenny Harper. He said they were left there. This is the official line. They were left there for the tooth fairy. Now, this is the official. Now, this is something you'd expect a bloody conspiracy theorist to say.
Yeah.
You think, well, wait a minute. But on top of that, you had Ian Lamarca, who was a Home Affairs minister. He said, and I swear to God, you couldn't believe this. He said, "Oh, they must have all just fallen out of children's mouths and fallen through a gap in the floorboard."
Well, all in the same space.
Yeah. So I said, "What? Possibly 65 different children, because there were up to 65 different children. They weren't all from the same mouth. Have walked past this exact same spot in a bloody floorboard. One of their teeth have fallen out and dropped through that gap in the floorboard. Is that what you really think happened?"
And did you say the root's still attached?
Some of them still had root attached. Yeah.
So it didn't fall out.
No.
Right.
So I said, 65 bloody teeth from 65 different children have fallen through a gap and just fallen out of their mouths in a gap in a floorboard. Really? I said, "Is that what you're expecting the public and me and others to believe?" He said, "Yes, that's exactly what I think happened." This is Ian Lamarca. Absolutely bonkers. He was our Home Affairs Minister. So the official line of the children's teeth was they were left there for the tooth fairy, and the other line was they fell through a gap in the bloody floorboard. So this is what we were up against. Of course, the media were just repeating this. So instead of saying, "Oh, wait a minute, that doesn't sound very feasible."
Did no one at the time question the fact that Ian Lamarca was the one who sent us to Le Chien? Because that to me would mean that his opinion on anything means fuck all.
Well, no, it didn't come until later, until the independent Jersey Care inquiry, the public inquiry of all this. They came out with what Ian Lamarca was doing, sending yourselves and others. I think that was actually breaking the Jersey's own law.
Oh, it was, yeah. You're not allowed to be sentenced under the age of 17.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
Nobody, because I don't think anybody really knew that at the time. I didn't know that Lamarca was sending youngsters to basically prison. A lot of us. But also, what you got to remember is you and I tonight. There's an hour and a half documentary, Camilla Hall's documentary, didn't scratch the surface of what's gone on with all this, the Operation Rectangle, the child abuse, the cover up. You and I tonight aren't going to scratch the surface on it.
It's just too much.
It's just too much. So Ian Lamarca sending children to prison when he was a magistrate, I vaguely remember a bit of it, at the time, when he was Home Affairs Minister, he went on to be Home Affairs Minister, but there's so much else going on of cover up and corruption.
Yeah, you're not going to focus on one thing. It'd be impossible.
That's right. And a lot of stuff slipped through the net.
And it's not only that, though. It shouldn't be up to people like yourself or, Stuart or Cheyenne or whoever the fuck. You know what I mean? You're people, first off, without resources. Second off, you don't even have the wherewithal to know where to start. You're jumping in the race halfway or 3/4 of the way, quarter of the way. So how you can knock it out the park consistently, same as Stuart and others and Rico and people like that, when they've got everything, the weight of the establishment behind them, all the money in the fucking world. They can interview whoever they want, whenever they want. They're always going to get, yes men to, fill that 15-minute spot. That alone should tip the scales for people watching this and watching the other documentaries that have been put forth. Because it shouldn't be that, you shouldn't be anywhere near close of turning the official line upside down. One person, 2 people, 10 people shouldn't be able to do that. If it's that easy to do, it means that it's made of fuck all. It means it's frivolous.
Yeah, we have, with documented evidence, absolutely destroyed, annihilated the official narrative of the media, our government and our law officers department of what went on, of the Operation Rectangle, the child abuse, decades of concealment of child abuse. With the official narrative, with documented evidence, we have annihilated and exposed the media for the liars they are all through the years.
So the coppers who are involved in that is Walkup and who else was it? Gradwell.
Mick Gradwell.
So they came in basically, so I remember it was almost like overnight. It was literally 1 minute there's a child skull and there was dead kids and there was abuse and there was this and there was that. And then literally it felt like overnight. It was like, no, nothing happened. It was okay. It's just, like I say, they fell out naturally. There's no child skull. It's coconut, blah, blah, blah. So obviously they're, what do you call them? Patsies? Or they're ushered in by someone somehow.
Yeah.
The establishment, the mafia, whatever you want to call them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To make sure that everything's sort of brushed away and then that's it. But like I said to Stuart on his show as well, they showed their hand there. They got flustered.
Yeah.
Because not only did they invent people like yourself and, everyone else who came out, they also rattled Stuart to the point where, let's be honest, Stuart's a very likeable guy. Do you know what I mean? And he is kind of the hero of this whole situation because he's the only one with the balls who stood up and went, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, in fact, it was just Stuart was on his own to begin with. Like I was on my own,
Yeah.
with the blogging. Stuart was on his own politically, late 2007. But others did come on board politically. Trevor and Shona Pittman, Daniel Wimberley, Deputy Bob Hill,
Mike Higgins.
So there was, I think we had 52 states members at the time. Like, there's only a handful who dare speak up. But you look at where they are now. Stuart, they've destroyed him. He's not a product. Trevor and Shona Pittman, bankrupted, basically forced off the island. Deputy Bob Hill lost his seat, suffered a severe stroke. Daniel Wimberley left the island. So anybody who spoke up and spoke out in favour of the child abuse at the time, for the victims who were the survivors, who were campaigning for the survivors, they've all. It's a tiding of woe.
They haven't exactly been lucky.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, So, and of course, Stuart obviously helped the Jersey Care Leavers Association, what was brought up to help survivors, with Carrie Modrell, Jill Gracia. I think we're going off tangent of subject here. So the support sort of grew. There was a sizable bunch of people, myself, Rico Sorda, plenty of others, Monty Tadier. I'd love you to interview Monty one day. He'll be very interesting. He was there back in 2008, organising rallies against the child abuse cover-ups and all the rest of it. Like, he's been there from the get-go, Monty.
Yeah.
In fact, Nick LaCornu was there himself as well, actually, part of Time for Change group. So there was quite a movement.
But do you understand what I'm saying in the sense that with all the people that you just mentioned, they have political power, let's say. They have, like a bit of pull.
Voice.
They have a voice, they have a bit of pull, they have, But how many people got locked up for this?
You mean how many offenders?
Yeah.
Abusers?
How many people who actually, from what we're talking about, we're spanning decades now, we're talking from the 60s onwards to when I was in the Shen. So you're talking like 40
about
years.
2014, I think it was. I think it's from just after, it was post-war, I think, until 2014. Now,
so over 60 years.
There were, look at the statistics. I published, again, the official statistics. I think there's 192 living suspects.
Right.
Were identified. The stat is there was 8 prosecutions and 8 court cases and only 7 prosecutions, successful prosecutions. So out of 192 living, I think it's 93% of suspects didn't get charged. And those who did were just low-lying fruit, a lot of them. That's not to minimise what
they did,
these shitbags did, these scumbags did. That's not to minimise it. But there were some very people further up the chain that should have. I remember one particular case, Lenny Harper had said, he's written about it, I've published it, it was watertight. There were something like 12 alleged victims who independently gave evidence, and all similar fact evidence against this guy. And this guy, even Lenny Harper said, just mentioning his name would send terror into people, into the victims. Didn't even get charged. Now you've got over 12 victims with. And the senior investigating officer has said it's the most watertight case he's got. Person didn't get charged. It said he's connected. And this is the problem over here. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
This is what I want us to get onto next. Is essentially what you're saying now is, because I want to try and make people understand, because it's a ball of shit over here. to try and understand anything. Do you know what I mean? Especially in government and, even like you said before, where do you even go to complain about something? Even that's fucking a staircase to nowhere. So what I wanted to pinpoint after that, because now we have a picture of, with hindsight, of what that was like around that time. But now we know that it's the LOD.
Yeah.
They're the ones who make the decisions.
Yeah. It's the law officers department. So this is it. Like I say, this particular alleged abuser, along with many, many others. Don't forget, William Balash, when he was the Attorney General, dropped, I think it was 13 cases. He said, he said, I'm not taking them to court. In one go, said 30. Now, this is in Jersey, that's it. If the Attorney General says, I'm not charging this, I'm not prosecuting this, that's it. Finished.
It's done. Yeah.
Done. In the UK, for instance, you can judicially review that. You can appeal that. You can bring a private prosecution. In Jersey, that's it. The power in the hands of the Attorney General is...
it's absolute.
It's absolute.
Yeah.
But because the Attorney General wears many different hats. So he is the advisor to the government.
Right.
Okay. So, for instance, he would be advising the government to mitigate against any prosecutions that might be coming their way, for instance. But he's also the guy who decides what prosecutions will be coming the government's way. So he can say, well, I'm not going to prosecute that. I mean, it's...
So if you're friends with him, in other words, or you've got something on him, or he's got something on you, or whatever way around it is, then you're okay.
If it's in the best interests of whatever goes on in Jersey behind closed doors, not to prosecute a case, the Attorney General just says, I'm not prosecuting it. Right. So that's it. And there's... with absolute power comes absolute corruption. Now, the AG, the Attorney General, also, so he advises the executive in the states, but he also advises scrutiny. So if you want to put it in sort of layman terms, he advises the government and he advises the opposition with his legal advice.
Right.
So again, that's a conflict.
So the LOD, are they the ones? Does he basically run the LOD?
The Attorney General does, yeah. He's the head of the Law Officers Department, I believe. Because above him you've got Advocate Philip Sinnell is a historian on Jersey's Constitution and obviously an advocate, and he gave a submission to a thing called the Carswell Review, and in it he explained about how they become. It's called Buggins's choice. So the Attorney General, who holds all this power, isn't elected by any of us. He's totally unaccountable. He's accountable to nobody. So, and we've got no choice on who that, like in the America and place like that, they're elected, the Attorney General.
Yeah.
Over here, it's Buggins's choice. They say, right, it's your choice. It's your turn next. You become your Solicitor General. You become Attorney General.
Yeah.
From Attorney General, you become the Deputy Bailiff. From the Deputy Bailiff, you become the Bailiff.
That's what Stuart said about Dead Man's Shoes. He said that it's something like they're filling... Yeah.
So, and then we come into it. See, people think... This is the thing, that the light is shining in the wrong direction. And that's not by mistake. That's the way the media like it. That's the way the media like to keep the status quo over here.
Yeah.
Is, what a bunch of shysters the government is.
Yeah.
This minister that, and that minister the other. And always slagging off the politicians. Nobody's looking behind the curtain. And it's it's the law officers departments, the Crown officers, these people who are basically appointed by the Queen, the Attorney General. And now, so with the bailiff, for instance, for any of your overseas viewers, is appointed by the Queen. And he is the chair, the president of our legislature,
right.
our parliament. He's the speaker of our parliament. But he's also the chief judge. So there's a huge conflict there where you've got the legislature. Now, but here's the thing. Now, our democratically elected members, our politicians, if they get to ask oral questions or written questions or submit propositions or amendments, they can only do that by permission of the bailiff. So the bailiff can say, well, no, I can't allow you to bring that proposition, or no, I won't allow you to ask that question.
When they're sitting in the States having a...
Before that even. So, for instance, on a Tuesday it's a state sitting.
Yeah.
The Thursday before, I think it is, your written questions have to be in, and they have to be okayed
By him.
by the bailiff.
Right.
Now, if you disagree with what the bailiff, if he says, I'm not letting you ask that question, it's not,
Yeah.
you can appeal to subordinates of him. So the deputy bailiff,
Yeah.
or the greffier. So it's just bonkers. It's bonkers that a unelected official can rule on what our elected representatives can and can't say in our parliament. It's bonkers.
So by that metric, by any level, we're not a democracy.
No,
We can't be.
no, we've got a veneer of a democracy, but the real power is held in the hands of basically the Attorney General's office, the bailiff, the deputy bailiff. That's where all the real power is.
So when we're slagging off, obviously, normal people who don't actually know about all this or know how anything runs, where should their attention be if they want change?
If they want change, they should be looking for. Again, we need an independent prosecution like the UK have got. They've got an independent prosecution service. We say our Attorney General advises our government. He's the one, like we just said a minute ago. So we need and decides what prosecutions can and can't happen. Well, that needs to change, because all the way through this child abuse, like I was saying, that there's so many people walking the streets now, paedophiles walking the streets now, because they haven't been prosecuted, because they have connections. Now, so an abuse survivor can't bring a private prosecution against these people, so they're against their abusers. So that needs to change. People's focus needs to be on the real power on this island, and it's the law officers department. It's the Attorney General's office.
So they get to say who goes to jail, who walks. Basically, that's it.
Yeah.
So essentially, if you're a powerful person in any way, shape, or form, if you've got friends in these places, you can literally get away with murder. That's pretty much what happened.
Literally. And of course, depending on what dirt you've got on them as well. You don't get to these positions by being squeaky clean.
Yeah.
In fact, it's probably the complete opposite. So, and Stuart's talked about it, it's the currency of concealment. They've all got dirt on each other. So it's a clique. It's a
mafia. He nailed it when he called it a mafia. There's no difference between what he calls a mafia and what we assumed a mafia to be.
Yeah, that's it. And we can't, they're made men, if you want to put it that way. They're untouchable. You or I or anybody, we can't go after them.
Even politicians, even people that we assume to have power.
It's when you say even politicians, they're
less so politicians. Yeah.
There's not as if they're. See, the thing with the politicians, there's some good politicians in there who go in there for the right reasons. But the fact of the matter of it is, a lot of them are thick. They're just stupid. And this came out in the documentary, Camilla's documentary. I think it was John Christensen said it. They're looking to pass propositions that are complex financial legislation. And you've just elected a fucking spud picker as a constable, for instance. They don't know the first thing about complex financial legislation. It's tailor-made.
So they're just gonna brush it through and think,
Of course they are.
Yeah.
And this is what the finance industry loves. Is they got these people who are getting elected because they wear a nice pair of shoes or a lovely tie or they're good to their mother.
Yeah.
They get elected and they're passing all this complex financial legislation. So I don't blame the politicians so much. A lot of them, they're just daft and they're sort of brainwashed a lot of the way. They think, the bailiff wears a red cloak. He wears a red robe. There's no way he could be corrupt. And I say he because it always is a he. There's never been a she. Or the Attorney General, well, he's an honourable man because look, he wears a red cloak as well. In fairness to, I think there's only Mike Higgins in there at the minute. Monty has a go as well, who exposes all this stuff, who talks about this, but we come back to it again and say, Higgins is a conspiracy theorist. That's exactly what they said about Stuart Syvret.
Yeah.
And because he was easy to dismiss. He's a conspiracy theorist. Of course, and it has to be said that Stuart Syvret, along with abuse survivors, Lenny, Harper, Graham Power, the bloggers, were all vindicated by the independent Jersey Care Inquiry.
Yeah.
So they should have listened to Stuart Syvret back then, just as they should be listening to the likes of Mike Higgins right now. But they're not, because he challenges those who shan't be challenged, and it's a law officers department.
Do you think it's more complacency as well? Because it seems that way, that a lot of people just don't want to rock the boat. They just want their paycheck every week, every year. They get relatively good money. Why are they going to rock the boat?
For sure. That is a huge part of it. You know, people think, that the politicians think, well, I see what happened to Stuart Syvret.
But plus that as well, they're going to look at people like Stuart and go, why the fuck would I want that? They literally railroaded every inch of his life.
Yeah, I've seen what they did to Trevor and Shona Pittman. I mean,
what did he get done for it? Well, how come they raided his gaff again? Was it over a parking ticket?
Stuart, I think it was his driving license. I think it was all sorts of excuses. It's hard to keep up with what they've, with Stuart, because they've arrested him that many times. They put him in prison.
Well, the first time when they went around and raided his gaff, I think it was in Grooville. It was over something fucking ridiculous. Where they didn't even have a right to be in his house.
I think it was a parking, not his driving license or something. But also, I think that's when they said he had broken the data protection law.
Right.
Now, they bent and twisted the living daylights out of the data protection law.
Of the interpretation.
The interpretation of the data protection law in order to bring Stuart to a secret court case funded by the taxpayer.
Yeah.
A secret court case is only ever held for
terrorism and stuff like
security
that.
Reasons,
Yeah.
National security. Because Stuart had apparently said nasty things about people on the internet. Now, these 4 proxies, we call them, were gathered by the then Data Protection Commissioner, Emma Martins, to bring a case against Stuart, these 4 proxies, because he had apparently said nasty things about them on the internet.
Mm.
Now, the court case wasn't whether what he said was true or not. It was did it cause them stress or harm? So, they could have and should have, if it was untrue what he said about them.
Yeah.
They could have and should have done him for libel or defamation. I don't know the other.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They had a secret court case, and it said, well, what he said about them caused them stress or harm. Well, if he's saying nasty things and they're true, whether they're true or not, of course it's going to cause you stress and harm.
Well, if you're calling someone a fucking paedophile and they are fucking or someone who covered up pedophilia, rape, and corruption, murder, and then you get offended by that, your feelings mean fucking nothing, and they never should. But obviously, if you're the judge presiding that case and the people bringing the LOD bringing that case to the court, obviously you're going to make sure that their feelings never get hurt again.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
So going back to your question, why people are not speaking up and speaking out again, because it's a lot of them, like I said to you, they just believe the official line, and it's a lot easier not to.
It's so much easier to just shut the fuck up, innit? Like, you know what I mean? Most people in life, especially with Cheyenne, people turn around all the time and they're like, how'd you do it? And you're like, well, if she didn't do it, first off, how different would Jersey be? Same as Syvret, same as yourself. If you lot didn't do what you do, the world would be a totally different place for every single person. But it's so much easier for people to sit there and go, I'll just fucking do anything for a quiet life. Yeah. It depends what you're built out of. Some people are built out of mush.
The message was sent out, and I know Stuart's talked about it, we've all talked about it regularly. When they did what they did to Stuart, and then when they did what they did to the Chief of Police, Graham Powell, they possibly illegally suspended him, what turned out to be a pack of lies. The message goes out, look what we can do to the Chief of Police. Look what we can do to the most senior senator of the island. People are going to think, what can they do to me?
It's the fucking Chief of Police.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
a 42-year police veteran, decorated by the Queen.
We fought terrorism in Ireland and stuff, didn't he? Wasn't he an anti-terrorism cop or something?
Lenny was. Yeah, Lenny Harper was, he's an old school detective, and they were just trashed in the media, all of it. So again, we come back to it. So people are thinking, well, I want to bring it back to Trevor and Shona Pittman when they bought a case. I don't want to go on about the case. It's a libel case. So they owed somewhere in the region of £200,000. They lost their case. They're corrupt courts now. Whether they rightly or wrongly lost their case, that's not relevant here. What's relevant is they didn't have a fair and impartial tribunal granted to them by the human right for their human rights. Right. So anyway, they lost their case. It was inevitable. It's a Jersey court. Yeah. They are corrupt, the Jersey courts. So they owed 100, £200,000.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I've said this previously. So if you owe me £100,000,
Mm-hmm.
I'll pick you up every morning, take you to work, make sure you do a day shift, come back, pick you up from work and drive you home. To make sure you're earning money because you owe me £100,000, even if you're paying me £10 a week.
As long as you're getting paid, yeah.
You're paying me. They bankrupted the Pitmans, who were earning in the region of £90,000 a year. They bankrupted them. So that means their debtors can't get their money. That means, this is the crucial bit, is Trevor and Shona Pitman are no longer politicians, because if you're bankrupt, you can't be a politician. So a lot of us are asking the question, surely, financially, what makes the most financial sense is keep them working, keep them in their job. Why, oh why did they bankrupt them? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
The only sense it makes is they wanted rid of them because they're a thorn on the side, unless there is any other reason that anybody can think of. But
well, if 100 grand means nothing to get rid of a thorn in the sides of these people, you're talking about these people aren't exactly short of change.
That's right, and I've never understood it. I've just never understood why, whilst they're earning £90,000, you'd want them bankrupted, unless it's for scrupulous reasons.
Well, political reasons.
Political reasons. Yeah. Get them out of there, because Trevor Pitman, particularly, and Shona. I mean, Shona had brought a vote of confidence against the bailiff. Trevor was speaking out massively, for the survivors, and exposing the cover-up and corruption. So they got rid of them. So,
so everyone pretty much.
But it's all been through the courts, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It all comes back to one door. As the door of the
LOD.
The Law Officers Department, the Attorney General's office. Every avenue, every lane, every road leads to that door on this island.
And that's basically where our democracy is killed.
Yeah, that's where truth, justice, integrity goes to die.
Yeah.
Over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But try and tell that to your normal folk who watch the news. They may be thinking, oh, hang on a minute. I've seen people being vox popped in they don't know what the bailiff does. They don't know what the deputy bailiff does. They've got no idea. And that's the way everybody, the establishment and the media like it. They want it that way. They want it that way. They don't want a light shone on what goes on there. So yeah, the power isn't held by the government and by politicians.
Or politicians, no.
No.
It's literally held by the people who run the Law Officers Department and the Attorney General.
Yeah, who are totally unaccountable, totally unelected.
And they're not elected, right? So the first thing there to unpack is, what did you say? We need an independent prosecution service.
Yeah.
So much like the mainland, where, because over here it's a centennial, then it goes to the Attorney General, the LOD. Yeah,
so it goes to the Attorney General. He says if a case goes to court or not. That's down to the Attorney General.
So if he says no, then the cops have no say.
That's right. Cops have got no say. Nobody's got any say.
So let's just say, we're not going to say exactly what case it is, but let's say a recent high-profile case recently, right? That could have been watertight. Let's just speculate that it was watertight, right? But to save embarrassment, let's say, the Attorney General can turn around and go, nah.
Yeah.
And the cops can't do anything. There's no second opinion. There's nowhere they can go.
They probably could ask. This is the other thing they do. So you can ask for another
review.
Opinion, an independent barrister in the UK or something.
Right.
So the law officers themselves will appoint one of their friends
to overlook the thing that they just tossed out.
Yeah. So it's probably a waste of time. So the cops probably know. The cops now, they've seen what happened to Lenny, Harper and Graham Powell. So I'm probably thinking the cops aren't going to ruffle any feathers. They show deference to the Attorney General, where they should be saying, you are right. They should be, if they think he's wrong, which my sources tell me the cops do think he's wrong. My sources tell me the cops believed in the particular case I think you're talking about, that it was watertight. Like I said, remember Lenny Harper case was watertight. So my sources tell me that the cops think they had an absolutely bang-on watertight case. So my question is, why aren't the cops saying this publicly? Why aren't the cops saying, we disagree with the Attorney General? Why not? Why aren't they saying that?
Because they watch what happens to Lenny Harper.
Exactly. And this is what goes on. This is what goes on. So
do you think that, just quickly, do you think that the new chief of police, whatever the fuck his name is, do you think that people like him are put in place because they're friends of the Attorney General or they're friends of the status quo?
after Lenny Harper and Graham Power, now we're talking Graham Power because he's the chief of police now, decided to investigate without fear or favour.
Mm-hmm. Being an actual copper, basically.
Doing what a police officer is supposed to be, independent from the government.
Yeah.
Since then, I can't imagine any chief police putting his head. Look what they did to Graham Power. Look what they did to him. It was lies. It was skullduggery. So any chief of police that comes now, they're not going to appoint a chief of police that's got anything like Graham Power, who's going to investigate without fear or favour.
Actually do his job, yeah.
Actually do his job. They're going to appoint somebody who is going to toe the party line. And because they know what's going to happen if they don't, because it's already there in the history books. So, Mike, as I say, I've heard from a good sources that the police are pretty pissed off that particular case didn't get prosecuted. As far as they're concerned, they got a watertight case, but they keep their mouth shut. See, we got this again. We come back because Alison Fossey's just been promoted again, I think.
Who's Alison Fossey?
Yeah, I think she's a superintendent now or something.
Yeah, I've seen that recently in the paper. Who is she?
She was the deputy senior investigating officer during Operation Rectangle, the Jersey child abuse thing under Lenny Harper. Mm-hmm. Now, there's two camps here. There's the Lenny Harper camp, and in fact the care inquiry camp, or on his, basically he did a professional job, and
the survivor camp essentially.
And the survivor camp, that's right. So, but when Mick Gradwell come and took over and unprecedentedly trashed Lenny Harper's child abuse investigation, saying it's the worst policing he's seen in 30 years. Well, Alison Fossey was a deputy senior investigating officer of that Operation Rectangle. So she was a part of that worst policing that's ever been done in 30 years. So when Lenny Harper left and Mick Gradwell became the senior investigating officer, Alison Fossey was a deputy senior investigating officer under Mick Gradwell.
Right.
Now, and we all say, and Lenny Harper says, and many other people say, I don't want to put words in Lenny's mouth actually, but a lot of us are saying that Gradwell was brought over here to cover it all up.
Well, it kind of makes sense now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Looking back.
So, Alison Fossey has been in the worst police investigation in 30 years, and she's also been in an alleged cover-up of it. She's always remained silent. So when Mick Gradwell was attacking Lenny Harper...
Essentially her as well.
She could have said, you're right, it was the worst policing I've ever seen and I didn't want to be a part of it.
Or she could have said,
what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
Our team, it wasn't just Lenny, there was a whole team. We did some professional policing. We she said nothing. That's very telling, considering she got promoted. So, and not only that, so let's just say it's the worst policing in 30 years under Lenny Harper. She was a part of that.
She's either guilty of one or the other.
So, the worst policing in 30 years under Lenny Harper, a cover-up with Mick Gradwell, and then what happens? She became the senior investigating officer of Operation Rectangle after Gradwell left.
So she's either the worst or she's the best. You can't have both ways.
Well, that's right. But either way, she's silent. And she's never been pulled up. Why hasn't... Well, I mean, I know why none of the media have said to her, why have you never spoken up?
Yeah.
Do you defend what Lenny Harper did? Do you defend what Mick Gradwell did when he was senior? Or do you refute what was said by Gradwell?
Anything, yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
But she kept her mouth shut. She gets promoted. That...
Read between the lines.
Yeah, there could be a very feasible explanation to all this. If it is, I'd like to hear it.
Well, there's that old mafia time, isn't there? 3 people can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead.
Yeah, that's right. And you'll always find a lot of people who keep their mouth shut do pretty well.
Well, again, they don't want to rock the boat, or they're just very good at playing the game. Because let's be honest, that is what it is. It's a game.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? To be involved in the worst and then the best and then the sort of in between.
But if you've got strong morals and strong ethics,
you can't play both sides of the fence if you do.
No, that's right. You've got to say, you've got to stand by your morals and ethics regardless of the consequences.
Which, yeah. But again, like I say, I don't feel sorry for the cops in a sense because, again, like I say, it's not a lot for one of them anyone to speak up. But I'd imagine they do look at Lenny and Graham and think, fuck that. Do you know what I mean? Because same as Stuart, same as anyone else who spoke up. But it doesn't look good.
No. But again, if it's... I mean, they spent millions, and I mean millions, shutting down this child abuse inquiry. I think the investigation they got by the Wiltshire police, I think, cost 1.5 million. They had suspended Graham Power, and he was on full pay. Then, of course, his replacement was getting paid as well, David Walkup. So you've got two chief police officers, basically, wages going out because they had decided to possibly illegally suspend the chief of police. The court cases against Stuart. Millions have been spent. The thing is now the establishment have made their bed and they have to lie in it. But the thing is they've got a bottomless pit of money and resources.
To do it. Yeah, so they can double down, triple down. It doesn't matter. They've got all the money and time to do it.
Yeah. I honestly believe when, I don't know who it was, Andrew Lewis was the Home Affairs Minister that possibly illegally suspended Graham Power on what the Care inquiry found out to be a pack of lies. Now, I don't know who put him up to it. What I do know is he's the patsy. He's the fool guy in all this. And I've never understood why he's never blown the whistle. He's going to go down in history as the liar, but he's taking the fall for others. He was put up to this.
Is he still in government or?
No, he stood again and he gave evidence to the Care inquiry. Right. And it was the Care inquiry found that he lied under oath to the Care inquiry.
Right.
But of course he is protected by parliamentary privilege because he was a politician. So he couldn't, like you and me, if we gave evidence. Perjury. Yeah. And even more so, the survivors of child abuse were giving their harrowing story to the Care inquiry under the threat of perjury if they lied. Andrew Lewis walks in, gives evidence that the Care inquiry themselves found was a pack of lies.
And nothing happens.
Does it with impunity because he's a politician, he's got parliamentary privilege. So then there was a vote of censure against him in the states of Jersey because he brought the states of Jersey's reputation into disrepute. Yeah, I know. As if what kind of a reputation have they got? But so, and he's going to go down in history as the guy who lied to a Care inquiry about suspending the chief of police during the biggest child abuse investigation that's ever gone on. So he sees me as a bad guy in all this because I've been publishing the truth. I've been publishing the facts. I've been publishing and questioning his narrative.
Yeah.
He sees me as a bad guy. I don't understand why he doesn't see the guys or girls who put him up to this as the bad guys, because they're walking scot-free with all this. They're walking. He's going around being pointed at, and he's he in the history books and in the documentation, he's seen as the liar. Whoever put him up to it, get away with it. I'm not the bad guy in this. I'm trying to say, tell us who these guys are. I remember I had an email exchange with Andrew Lewis, and he said, "You're going after the wrong person." I said, "Well, tell me who I should be going after."
Tell me who the right person is. Yeah,
tell me who the right person is, and I'll go after them. He never has.
But like you say, it's dirt. Someone's got dirt on him, or he's got dirt on someone else, or whatever it is, or it's money. Simple as that.
I just don't know what it is why he would protect the people who put him up to this. Because I'm quite sure when he got put up to this to suspend the chief of police on this absolute pack of lies, I'm quite sure they said, "Look, just get it done.
Yeah.
no one's going to be talking about this in a few months' time, because it's the way it's always been done. Because the media are in the pocket of the establishment. They said, nobody will be talking about this in a couple of months' time. We've got the media in our pocket. Just get it done and we'll move on. Because they didn't factor in the internet. They didn't factor in the blogs.
A lot of people didn't. A lot of people, especially back then, you couldn't have the foresight to know that people are going to be as interconnected as they are today, and sharing information will become so easy. And not only that, like I say, it's got to be either money or, quite simply, they've got something on him, and that's it. Because that's the only other reason you'd barefaced lie to a care inquiry, and like you say, go down in the history books as a fucking cunt.
He lied under oath according to the care inquiry. I don't want to call him a liar because I don't want to get done for defamation.
Oh, fuck him.
But that is, but not only that, the sad part about that is, not what he did to Graham Powell, the chief of police, which is sad enough, and his family. That isn't a way to end a 42-year police veteran's career.
Yeah.
That's no way, But it's the abuse survivors that lost confidence and trust in the police straight after that. They thought, it's going to be a cover-up now. It's going to be a cover-up. That's the most hurtful thing of what it did to the abuse survivors.
Well, that's what it would do. Anyone from myself or anyone else that was in care or whatever, straight away we seen what was happening. We saw it like a slow fucking train wreck. We're just waiting for the crash. Do you know what I mean? But again, I think they showed their hand, and I think keeping a lid on it now is harder than what they ever believed it would be. Yeah, because here we are, years on, we're still talking about it. It's still, people are still making documentaries about it. People are still talking about it. This is the thing. When you ruin someone's life, a child's life especially, it doesn't go away. It might have done years ago, like say before the internet and before we had, we could talk to each other and stuff, and before people were brave enough to speak out. Because that's what this sort of thing does. That's what your blog does. That's what hearing Syvret and Cheyenne talk, that's what it does. It gives people that, that courage to come forward and go, look, this happened. Yeah. That's more what it is. The awareness that you raise is literally what that is giving people courage.
Also, on top of that, like we're saying, that dark period I went through thinking I'm paranoid, and maybe, by getting this information out there as well, it tells other people, look, it's not just you.
Yeah.
You're not alone. You're not on your own. There are people, who know what's going on. So, that does give people strength to speak up and speak out,
Yeah, like I say, because you do feel like you're fucking crazy. I remember when we first heard Stuart talk, we had just left Le Chien. Do you know what I mean? So I was, 16 when I left, and then 19 when all this shit started happening, when, Operation Rectangle and everything else was going on. And, yeah, listening to it, and when he'd done the BBC interview where they started taking the surrounding out and moving the chairs and stuff, and when he was on BBC or
no, it was Channel Television that did that thing at the press conference called by Frank Walker.
That's it, yeah, and he turned up.
He turned up because he was invited by the UK journalists. He was tipped off that it was going on.
Yeah,
and he turned up, and rightfully so.
Yeah,
to give his side of the story.
And when they had the thing on, was it Paxman Newsnight? And Frank Walker was standing next to it, and then on the BBC where he said you're trying to shaft Jersey internationally and all that. We all watched it. We all knew what was coming. But the only thing was Stuart was the only person who was out there that you could see and think, fucking, what's he doing? But we all looked at him and went, what the fuck are you doing?
He was the face of it, And again, back in 2007, I think it was, he said, I'm going to order a independent outside report into the care of children on the island. That was his downfall.
And then they sacked him that summer, was it?
They brought a vote of no confidence against him. They tried to get the chief of police to agree with it. He walked out of a meeting held by civil servants. And of course, in that meeting was Mario Lundy. You all know Mario Lundy from Le Chien.
Yeah.
He was a suspect in Operation Rectangle. He was under investigation by the police. And then Graham Powers, I think one of his affidavits, I think it was, or it might have been in his Wiltshire defence case, he said that Bill Ogley, who was the chief executive officer of the state at the time, said if anybody wants to come for Mario, they've got to come through me first. This is the chief of police said this is what he witnessed at this particular meeting, that the meeting was gathered to support a vote of no confidence against Stuart as a health minister at the time.
What was Mario Lundy at the time?
He was the director of education.
Right, yeah, they all seem to have that job after Le Chien.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Again, it's Buggins' choice. You go up through the ranks. Now, he was under investigation by Operation Rectangle. So he is I think it's for physical abuse. I think,
He broke my mate's arm in Le Chien.
well,
Among other things, like they called him Pinball Wizard.
yeah, pinball wizard. Now, he's under investigation by the police as a prime suspect for physical abuse against children. He wasn't suspended. Okay, the police investigation was ongoing. But the chief of police, whose force was investigating Mario Lundy, was suspended at the drop of a hat on what's turned out to be a pack of lies.
Yeah.
So this sort of shows you what goes on. Mario Lundy was never charged. I remember when he gave evidence to the care inquiry, he tried to say that the alleged survivors or his alleged victims were basically in it for they're trying to get compensation. And I think it's McGahey, one of the lawyers for the care inquiry, said, well, do you realise something like only a third of the people have asked to join the redress scheme? Basically 2/3 of the people who are making allegations against
Just want you in fucking jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there was something, if memory serves correct, there were 12 people made allegations against Mario Lundy, 12 different people, and there was 24 different possible charges against him. He's on a nice state pension now, never got prosecuted, never even got suspended whilst he was under investigation by the police, but the chief of police did get suspended.
Fuck me, 24 charges.
That's if memory serves correct. I'm quite sure there were 24,
Even if
well, not charges, say 24 allegations from 12 different people.
Fuck me, if I had 4 charges put against me, I'd probably get fucking charged with 6. Do you know what I mean? That's the way it works around with us.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Fucking hell. But now I remember, he broke my mate's arm. He, what else did he do? He made my mate walk around naked in the day room at Le Chien. Loads of shit. He was a fucking dickhead. But I only knew him because he left Le Chien and went to Grainville. So when I was year 8, 12 or whatever I was, he just started becoming the headmaster there. And I remember he said to me, because I was a little shit, obviously, I wasn't turning up to school. And I remember he turned around to me and he said, in his Irish accent, he was like, you're going to end up going to Le Chien and you won't fucking like it there. And I was like, fuck you, you bitch. Do you know what I mean? Literally within 2 weeks I was in Le Chien and I didn't like it. But
yeah,
I'd say it was a lot better under Chipperfield than what it was fucking Mario Lundy, put it that way. Like
Chipperfield took over from Lundy.
Yeah,
really.
yeah. And then Mansell took after Chipperfield.
Who did?
Mansell, Kevin Mansell.
Yeah.
So there was, I think he only about 2 years. No, it'd have been about 2-3 years before I got there. That thing he was there. What's his name again? Lundy, and then before that was McKeon, I think.
Tom McKeon again. You know, we go on to the Buggin's choice, don't we? It's your turn next.
Yeah. So everyone seems to leave Le Chien after locking up kids in fucking solitary and beating them up. Yeah. And then they all become director of education.
McKeon and Lundy, if my memory serves correct, I found out from the care inquiry, they actually worked in an approved school together. Before working, they knew each other and worked together in an approved school in the UK.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the allegations are that they basically made a living out of battering kids, because McKeon was also called...
Oh, he was a cunt.
The Pinball Wizard.
Yeah.
You know, but both of them were called the Pinball Wizard, like, you know.
Yeah.
So
there's too many things that there's too many not coincidences that, like, was it Lenny or Graham that said you couldn't write a bad fiction out of it? It's too...
Yeah. You couldn't sell this as a fictitious story.
Yeah.
It's too incredible. It's too unbelievable.
And yet they're all still sitting there on a big fat pension and there's no worries.
I remember Rico Sorda, part of Team Voice, fantastic blog. The work Rico did on his blog was phenomenal with all this sort of stuff. And he used to say they're all sat down there, you know, your McKeons, your Lundys, and all that, all sat down there with their pensions, you know, sipping wine, loving life, like, you know, whilst all the survivors, you know, of not just their alleged victims, you know, they've been given a couple of quid.
I'm told, shut the fuck up.
Shut your mouth. You don't get any justice, you know, and that's the way it goes on, you know, and it's a revolving cycle, unfortunately. You know, one thing I have noticed is the survivors is not just in Jersey. Well, yeah, at least they do get some kind of justice in the UK, but in Jersey, it's always, there's never any justice. It's always, we'll give you a couple of quid and keep your mouth shut.
Well, that's just the way of Jersey.
Yeah.
We're the Scarface of this market. We're the money launderer of this place. So that's the only thing they know how to do. They can't actually turn around and say, we are fucking sorry that this happened to you. That's never going to happen. Do you know what I mean? And then, because then they're complicit.
But I mean, yeah. But, you know, the sorry, I mean, in fairness to Ian Gorst, he did apologise when he was a chief minister. He did make a public apology, which I've got to give him credit for that.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, would you rather an apology or justice? You know, if it's on the table, there's money in one box, there's justice in another, and an apology in the other. Which one are you going to choose?
Justice. I'd rather see everyone in jail.
But and I haven't spoken to a survivor yet that hasn't said, I want justice. I don't want the money, I want justice. But justice is never on the table for them. You know, you've just got money and or an apology.
Well, when I tried to say, when I told people to take it to the High Court, I got told that it'd never work. Because that thing, you know, the time limit that you have.
Statute of limitations.
That's it, yeah. I got told it'd never happen, it wasted my time, and so did everyone else, to be honest. That's when I first started talking to Stuart, because I thought, well, and the only reason I choose justice, just for the twisted irony, is because we're all in there for committing crimes. Most of us didn't actually commit any crimes. So, like, the only reason I choose that is because it'd give me no better fucking pleasure than to go to sleep every night and think, that cunt's in a cell like I was. Because we had no business being in cells at 13.
Now you know what it's like.
Yeah, we had no business being in solitary confinement at 13. That's the worst. The worst punishment to be bestowed upon hardened criminals now is solitary confinement for 24 hours. Yeah. We're doing fucking 6 weeks at 13. Do you know what I mean? So, like, just that alone would make me sleep at night a bit better. Do you know what I mean? Knowing that they're sitting there just having a slither, because they'd never get as bad as what we had, but just a slither. Do you know what I mean? For a year. Do you know what I mean? 2 years, whatever the fuck. But again, we knew it would never happen. Because again, if they were actually, who would they bury along with them?
That's it.
Because if you send people like Mario down, you know fine well the whole fucking house of cards comes down.
He's going to take others with him.
Yeah.
In fact, it goes back to Lenny Harper when he went to the chief minister, with Operation Rectangles, and basically, I think it was Bill Ogley, who was the chief executive officer at the time, the top civil servant for the government, said this could bring the government down.
Yeah.
And Lenny Harper said, I don't care. You know, that's not my business. I'm a police officer.
Yeah.
I'm here to investigate crimes.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether it brings the government down or what is irrelevant to me. I don't need to know that. But then you're right in what you're saying. This could bring the government down. So what do? They got rid of the good cops.
Is there anyone still in post today, like positions of power, not obviously that are elected, that were around that time?
Around what, of Operation Rectangle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like any politicians, any people who actually, went against Stuart and stuff like that? Is there anyone sitting in there today?
Yeah.
Like who?
Well, I mean, you say went against them. I don't know about went against them. Didn't go with them, him.
Yeah, that, yeah.
Yeah, there's hundreds.
Really?
Not hundreds. I mean, there's only 40 to 42. I don't think it'd be fair to point, because I can't name them all. It wouldn't be fair to point one or two out,
I shit stir all the time, fuck them.
Well, I do remember Deputy Kevin Lewis, not Andrew Lewis, the one that suspended the chief, Kevin Lewis. Now, when Mick Gradwell was saying, there's no cellars up at Haute de la Garenne, it's because we knew there were, because I'd been up there with my bloody camera with Deputy Bob Hill.
Well, my stepdad was in there. I know there was cellars. Yeah. I mean,
well, Deputy Kevin Lewis had helped write a book. He's a historian on buildings over here. He was an expert on Haute. He showed Lenny Harper where the cellars were. Right. Deputy Kevin Lewis. So of course Mick Gradwell's out there saying, "Oh, there are no cellars. There are no cellars." I thought, well, Kevin Lewis knows there are.
Yeah.
So he should be saying, look, Mick Gradwell's telling lies. So I showed Lenny Harper where the bloody cellars are. He didn't. He said nothing. Also, in this book that he helped research, Deputy Kevin Lewis, in his book it said that the bath at Haute de la Garenne in the 1940s, what used to happen is there'd be like 10 boys at a time would go in and all scrub each other's backs in the 40s. Right. Mick Gradwell said, there's a bath down there, but it hasn't been used since the 1920s. Oh, hang on a minute. Deputy Kevin Lewis knows that it was used in the 40s.
Yeah.
He said nothing.
That was the big concrete bath, wasn't it? The big square one.
Yeah.
Under the floor. Yeah.
Where there was blood found.
Yeah.
Traces of blood found by Keeler, the dog. That whole bath under the, when Mick Gradwell was a senior investigating officer, disappeared. That whole big concrete bath went. Gone.
And that's where it was scrolled on the side. I've been bad for years.
I'm not sure where that was. I know it was.
It was on one of the pillars, I think.
Yeah, it was on one of the pillars. I think it was in the room with the bath. I think you're right. Yeah. That whole bath just disappeared after blood was found under Mick Gradwell.
Yeah, it does. The stuff that you say, obviously, and if I'm sure most people who watch this have watched the Syvret show. I mean, the interview I done with Syvret. It just doesn't add up. There's no way you can cut it that it's not corrupt. There's no way you can cut it that it's not scratching each other's backs. There's no way that it's not the worst fucking shit show you could ever see, because they keep doubling down and tripling down and making it worse and worse. To the end, people are just going to go, fuck you. Well, you hope they do. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know, most people just want a quiet life.
Well, again, we say, like I said earlier, is we've got to start from the point it's a cover-up. That's it.
Then prove it otherwise.
Yeah, then prove otherwise. It's not my job to prove that it is and again, absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. Just because I don't know why they're covering something up
doesn't mean they're not covering it up.
Doesn't mean to say they're not covering it up. And I shouldn't have to prove why they're covering it up. They should prove why they're not.
Yeah, I think that's to be honest, that's the way I've always looked at everything. But then again, obviously, I would look at it like that. I was in these places and stuff like that, and I heard people telling me that it never happened. And like I said, my mum's boyfriend for years, he told me about, he was the one who warned me about Le Chien, because obviously I was about 11, 12, being a little prick, and not going to school and stuff. And he was the one who said, like, you don't want to fucking go down that road, because obviously he went to Haute de la Garonne. I think he is abused by the priest up there and the teachers, and then because he stuck up for himself, he got shipped off to Borstal, and then by 14 he was in Borstals up and down the UK. Then he done I think 15 years in Parkhurst, and then came back over here. So the life was, no fucking joke. Yeah. So obviously, and that's all because of where he started, which was in that place.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it. And the stuff that he told me about that place, literally it's like 20 years later sitting there with yourself or Syvret or anyone else going, I knew this. You used to tell me this when I was 11 years old. Do you know what I mean? Exactly who done it, where they did it, everything.
But again, that falls into the hands of the establishment and the abusers and everything, because it's a recurring, this always happens, is now if you say it's your stepdad.
Yeah.
Now, if he come out and said all this, I say, don't listen to him. He's been in Parkhurst, he's been here. This is what they do.
Yeah.
It's straight away. But in fairness to Keir Starmer, of all people, actually, when he was the Director of Public Prosecutions in the UK, he said, and it's basically what we're saying, after the Jimmy Savile scandal.
Yeah.
He said, we should now be looking, because they've always said that they're a drug addict, they're a criminal, they would just discredit any survivors, discredit. So now, he said, we should start listening to them. That should be our starting point, that they're telling the truth. Now, it was Keir Starmer that said that, which, as he...
I don't know if that's any credit or not, but then again, truth is truth.
Well, that's right. What he's saying is, don't discredit these people because they're drug addicts. Don't because they're alcoholics. Listen to what they've got to say.
The normal position should be, why are they drug addicts?
That's right.
Why are they alcoholics? Because they've been through some fucking shit they're trying to block out.
Why have they ended up in prisons, like you just said?
They're obviously going through something. What was that bad? This is the problem. This is why, obviously, Cheyenne and myself have been speaking up about children's services and stuff, because if the state is renowned for not being able to fucking raise kids, the last thing they should be doing is fucking taking them. Because we know, and I've said this from day one, and I'll keep saying it till I'm blue in the face, when I went to court to become a ward of court, to be given to the states of Jersey, to then go to Le Chien, my mother wasn't standing in court, a social worker was. Yet not one social worker was ever mentioned in the care inquiry. And I'll say it till I'm blue in the face, and that's the reason I started talking about them, and still to this day talk about them, because they're as corrupted, only less mentioned than every other facet of government. Everyone likes to turn around and say, it's this and it's that and it's him and it's her. Who signed the document? Legally, you need a document to sign a child to take the rights away from the parent, which has been in place now since 1964, I believe. The same similar sort of things to take a child from a parent. You need someone that works for a government agency, which is always children's service.
Yeah.
Yet, not one social worker ever came to Leshen.
Well, see, again, we come back to it where at the care inquiry found that the states of Jersey and its employers, employees, failed children for decades, miserably failed them.
And still doing it.
But the thing is, yet not one of them have been held to account for it.
No.
You know, the other thing the care inquiry said, it was quite telling, and Lenny Harper picked up on it. It said about Operation Rectangle, it said the majority of politicians agreed not to get involved, not to poke their nose in with Operation Rectangle. Lenny Harper said, that's right, a majority did. He said, what about the minority?
Yeah.
You know, they've asked their own question here, you know, but not onto the same. Look, there was a cabal of them who didn't agree not to poke their noses in, like, you know, and they did poke their. But going back to what you're saying, you know, the social workers, there are good social workers that, again, that join the profession for the right reasons and everything, but they're totally and utterly unaccountable. And
anyone who's unaccountable, who works for the government, straight away should be questioned.
Yeah. And why were none of these people who failed, people like yourself and other survivors, why weren't they brought to justice? They still could. Don't forget, a lot of new evidence come out in this care inquiry. A lot of new evidence come out in the care inquiry. Yet no prosecutions have been brought by the police as a result, or the Attorney General, as a result of any of this information coming out in the care inquiry.
Yeah, because now it's just, it's complicity. The moment they turn around and say, okay, we did X, Y, and Z wrong, then the next follow-up question is, well, who enabled it? Why did it happen? Et cetera, et cetera. It goes down that road of...
And the whole pack of cards come tumbling down.
So they know fine well they have to stand safe, basically. They just have to stand their ground and go, you can say whatever you want now, but just don't bring it to my door. That's basically it. So, like, and again, there's a few people who... Because I said that when... I think I mentioned it on Medic's podcast. When I said that, it's only because I spoke to every single person who was there before me and after me. And I was like, did you ever see a social worker in Leshen? It's a very simple question. Now, we know who comes up there. There was politicians who used to come up there. They used to reel me out every now and then and call us little villains and say that we're doing well now and obviously promise you stuff when the people are there because then, you know, you'll get, you know, an extra 2 hours out yourself, whatever the fuck, right? And obviously if you're a kid, you can't see past today, let alone next week. Yeah. So if you're promised a good week, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Then you're going to do whatever the fuck you're told. But it was only when I was about 20 and I started looking into why, you know, what social workers were, what their job was. Do you know what I mean? They can walk into any place over here that's, you know, looking after kids and they can say, well, what the fuck is that cell? Yeah. What them 4 cells behind that door? What do you use them for? They obviously not use fucking storing files. Do you know what I mean? There's kids in there. Do you know what I mean? And all the rules and regulations that go along with it, you know, we didn't have shoes. You're not allowed shoes for the first 6 weeks. So
not
you can't
allowed shoes?
No. Fucking hell, man. No one in the Shen was allowed shoes. As soon as you go into the Shen, they have... the moment you walk into the Shen, you have 48 hours solitary confinement. The first 6 weeks, you are in the cell, as in the solitary cell. They let you out dependent on how good you are. But no matter what, you do not get shoes for the first, I think it's 1,000 points. Because they're a point system. Or the first 500 points. So your shoes taken off you, given a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, and that is it. Done. It got so bad with me because I caught scabies in there. And because I was ripping my skin off, you know, like in between my fingers and the back of my knees. And they put it down to self-harm. And I was like, I'm just scratching. Obviously, when you're 13, you don't understand what the fuck scabies is. And then, they wouldn't let me shower. Obviously, I'm wearing some other cunt shoes. Some other cunt shorts and t-shirt. And then they finally took me to my doctor. I can't remember his name now. But for some reason, they took me to my doctor and not their doctor. So obviously, my doctor was sitting there and going, why is he in this state? And what the fuck is going on? Because obviously, the last time I seen him, he was 11, he had the flu. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I was looking at me and going, are you okay? And I'm like, I think so. And he's like, where are you staying? Where are you sleeping? What's going on? And I'm like, I'm just in like I think I explained it as a toilet. I said, I'm in a place like a bathroom, like a toilet. It's white walls and hard floor. And they take the mattress every day and then they give it back at 8 o'clock at night. And then that's it. No books, no colours, no nothing.
It was all part of the Grand Prix system.
No, that was after me. We were on the point system. And, Yeah, then that's it. So you just sit on the floor, do press-ups, do whatever the fuck you can. And I was like, And if you swear, then you get longer in there. If you do anything wrong, do you know what I mean? You get longer in there. But he's just looking at a young 13-year-old ripping his skin off his fucking body going, this has been going on for a long time. As in, this has been, I don't know how long it was, because that's the worst thing that I found was the no clock. You don't know what time of day it is. They don't tell you. Do you know what I mean? That's what makes it go even worse and worse. So, like, when you find out you've been in there for, I don't know, fucking a week, you're sitting there going, fuck, that was a year. That's got to be a year. Do you know what I mean? You feel, you know, different. It's fucked up. But yeah, even my doctor turned around and I think he gave him some cream. The teacher that I was with at the time turned around and said, oh, don't worry, he'll be all right. He's out next week. So, because I don't know anything, I'm sitting there going, oh, really, am I? I knew I had a court date coming up. But when I went to court, I got found not guilty of all charges, which was, I think at the time, assault and breaking entry and larceny. They said I broke into someone's house when I was skiving at my mate's gaff. It was a bullshit charge. But I got found not guilty of all charges. So I thought...
And you've just done weeks in solitary confinement.
Yeah, but listen to this for a corker. When I went back to Ian Lamarcon in court, some cunt of a social worker was standing behind me, and I'm standing there going, well, I don't need to earn points because I'm going home. Like, I'm not guilty of all these charges. I knew I was not guilty. I wasn't even there when it happened. So I was like, well, you can only keep me here for so long, so fuck you. I'll sit in your cell and I won't play the game. I won't earn points and you can keep my fucking shoes as well. So 3 weeks go by. I don't see anyone. I'm in solitary. Then I go back to court and they say, right, charges are dropped. There's no witnesses and there's no evidence to support it. But no school will accept you over here. I was like, right. So, like, back to Le Chien. So literally for 3 years then, I'd done Le Chien for essentially not going to school.
Bloody
so no crime. No crime was committed.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
You know, again, that's breaking the law. Because it reminds me of Simon Bellwood. He was the first whistleblower. He was the one who went to Stuart Syvret to begin with about the Grand Prix
I remember
system.
his name, yeah.
Yeah. Now, of course, he, again, you put on guarding. What he was saying is, look, the Grand Prix system is basically, this is when the Howard League for Penal Reform came out. It came over in the end and did a report on Greenfields and the rest of it. And they said, well, look, the Grand Prix system is an abusive system and it will be illegal in England and Wales.
Yeah.
It came out of the care inquiry that it was a secretary gave evidence to the care inquiry saying, I was ordered by one of the superiors to destroy anything that had the Grand Prix, any document that's got the Grand Prix system written on it. She said she spent a whole afternoon.
Miss Richardson, I think it was.
Is it? I can't. I wish I can remember her name because I do want to find that transcript. Richard, I'm going to search that.
I think it's
now.
Miss Richardson, yeah.
Right. So she was ordered to destroy documents. That's illegal.
Mm-hmm.
That's illegal.
Yeah.
That came out in the care inquiry. Nobody was held to account for that.
I think I've still got my points card somewhere. Little points card that they sign off on every day. But then
you have to earn enough points to be able to get out for the weekend and get
and then but then you have a stage review. So you can earn your 1,000 points to get a stage, but then you have a stage review.
And they
so
can dock you
they can turn around and go fuck off. So that day you could work your balls off. So manual labour was 25 points an hour. Manual labour. Now how many hours?
13-year-old kid.
Yeah. So manual labour is 25 points an hour, and then obviously mopping floors and all that fucking shit. And then going to class, I think you got 10 points per lesson. I don't know why they done that, because you had no choice but to be in class. You couldn't exactly skive in fucking a shed. You live there. Do you know what I mean? And then they had it was roughly every 2-3 weeks you get a stage. Because obviously manual labour takes an hour, 25 points an hour. Do the math. You've only got 4 hours after work. After school. So you got to be in bed anyway. So you don't have a lot of time to earn these points. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And then but then I'd seen it a few times, and it happened to me once, and I lost everything. I lost everything a load of times. But it was that day. Wednesday was stage review. I remember, and it was 5:30 every day after afternoon tea, and the head would walk down Chipfield or whoever's in charge that day, and close the library doors, sit there with all the teachers around the thing, and go through you one by one, and go, right, let's say Andrew. Do you know what I mean? Has he been good this week? And they're like, well, he's got the points. Do you know what I mean? He's done. You can't be naughty and get points because you lose points for nothing up there. Do you know what I mean? And then I got to me or whoever it was and was like, I don't know, Eddie's attitude today's been a bit off. We'll leave it till next week. And you're like, I wanted to go home for one day. Do you know what I mean? I just want to go home for one day.
Points.
Yeah, I've done the right thing.
You've done what's been asked of you.
Yeah, I just want to go home for a Sunday fucking afternoon. But in the end, they had to give me day pupil. I lost everything about 20 times.
Because they did come out in the care inquiry again about the point system. And what they would do, they would target, maybe you were one of the targets, they would target people.
Yeah.
That
they'd make an example of you.
It was suggested by the counsel to the inquiry that the likes of Mario Lundy had favourites in there, sports, athletic people, and they always got their points.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But the little bugger who doesn't play sports and plays up, although it was used against you.
Yeah.
They say, oh, I'm not giving you your points. I'm stripping you of 20 points.
You could have an off day. So say if you got a bad night in your fucking cellar, I don't know. But if you had an off day and you just weren't with it, obviously if you're 13 years old and you've been taken from your family anyway, you're going to have a fucking off day.
Scabies.
But yeah, or that, that fucking normally helps. But like, they'd walk in there and you'd be sitting there going, why the fuck? It's like your whole world is waiting on this one decision. And they'd either cancel it, which they've done to me twice, where you lose the 1,000 points, you have to start from scratch. Or they say, we're going to review it again next week. And they're like, just make sure your attitude's better tomorrow. And you're like, what the fuck? In the end, I think I got stage 4 was a Saturday and a Sunday night out. Sorry, you leave school on Friday night and come back on the Sunday. Every time I got to stage 3 or 4, I lost everything.
See, notwithstanding the physical abuse that obviously went on up there, it's the mental torture.
That's worse than the physical any day. I'd take a kicking any day over solitary confinement any day.
Because again, being robbed of your points. You've earned your 1,000 points to go home for a bloody day, and they say, "Oh, you're not going now." That's got to be, Well,
it's that, but they fuck with you all the time like that. But what I'm saying is the mental side of it. Again, even now, even if you went and got fucking, I don't know, Charlie Bronson, do you know what I mean? The worst thing you can do to a murderer, a hardened criminal, an adult hardened criminal, is take him away from other people for 72 hours. That's the worst thing you can do. Yet that was standard in the Shen for anyone. Doesn't matter if you were hard, doesn't matter if you were soft.
We're talking kids here, we're talking children.
12, 13-year-old kids. So it doesn't matter where you're from, who you are, you're getting the same treatment. And
terrorists don't get that treatment.
Exactly, It'd be against their human rights. But, welcome to Jersey, I suppose.
Yeah.
Fucking 100 years behind the fucking rest of the world.
Which reminds me of when Leah McGrath Goodman was reporting on the Jersey child abuse stuff. She was arrested at Heathrow Airport because she had been flagged by the immigration department over here after she had told them that she was investigating child abuse. All of a sudden there's all sorts of problems with her. She's an American journalist. Yeah, all sorts of problems with her visa after she mentioned she was investigating the child abuse at Hotel Garin. She ended up getting arrested at Heathrow Airport, put in a windowless cell, a dungeon by the sound of things, at Heathrow Airport for I think 8 hours without being asked a single question. She wasn't allowed to contact a lawyer, her consulate, anybody. And she said, this is against my human rights. I said, no, it's not. You're on Heathrow Airport. You're not yet on British soil.
Yeah.
So basically they detained her for I think up to 12 hours, deported her.
How has Jersey got that pull in Heathrow?
Well, there's we're going down another avenue now.
Yeah, but it's an obvious question to ask, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we understand that Jersey's like a fishbowl full of cunts, but how can you have that pull there? I guess that goes back to the same thing as the coconut going to the UK and who pulled the strings over there.
Well, there's a coincidence here because Brian Moore was a chief constable of the Wiltshire Constabulary who were, as we mentioned earlier, investigating Graham Power for a disciplinary hearing.
Yeah.
Brian Moore was the chief constable. He left there, the Wiltshire Police, and went on to become the head of the UK Border Agency.
Right.
Who was the head of the UK Border Agency when Leah McGrath Goodman got put into 12 hours? It was Brian Moore. Maybe that's just coincidence. I don't know.
There's too many coincidences, though.
But it was absolutely horrendous what happened. I mean, for her to be banned, a Western journalist to be banned from the UK and Jersey.
UK and Jersey?
Yeah, because she was, writing about the child abuse. It's just staggering. And in fact, it was Deputy Trevor Pittman and started up a petition to get it signed to reinstate Leah McGrath Goodman's visa so she could allow to be back. She was banned for 2 years.
Right.
John Hemming MP in the UK tabled a I've forgotten what it's called now, early days motion in the UK, asking for her visa to be reinstalled. restored. And Deputy Trevor Pittman started up. It got over 3,000 odd signatures. Anyway, her ban was taken down to a year. But on top of that, because they were saying, "Oh, you need this visa, you need that visa."
What's the reason for the ban, though? What was the reason
They
behind
said
it?
it was the wrong visa. The same visa she's been travelling on to Jersey all these years. All of a sudden, she mentioned to Jersey immigration that she's investigating the child abuse over here.
And all of a sudden, it's not good enough.
All of a sudden, it's the wrong visa you've got. But anyway, it was horrendous what happened to her at Heathrow Airport, and she's banned for two years. And she spent thousands and thousands of dollars, and it turned out the visa she's got now that allows her to write and do what she does was the very visa she had in the first place.
Right.
The one that was wrong. The one that she wasn't allowed to have. The one that she needed a different one. So now it's turned out...
Coincidence. Yeah. So now she's allowed back over?
Now she's allowed back over, yeah.
And that's been... Because I remember seeing her on RT years ago. She's done a
Russia
piece.
Today, yeah.
She's done a piece on
Max
that.
Kaiser, yeah.
Max Kaiser, that's it, yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at it thinking, who's this? And thinking, why has no one else seen this? And thinking, like, shared it to all my friends and stuff. And then thinking, like, fucking hell. But then that's where it takes you out the thing that we are really a fucking fishbowl.
But again, notably, not one single journalist over here
said a word.
No.
And
this is their profession. This is a fellow journalist here. They should be saying, hang on a minute. Not a single one. When William Balash in the court, they do this court thing every year, I've forgotten the name of it. He attacked the entire mainstream media and social media, basically saying, the mainstream media shouldn't be reporting things in news if they're public opinion and all this. Just attacked citizens journalists and mainstream journalists. Not one journalist over here said, hang on a minute. Hang on, I'm going to defend my profession here.
Well, their profession hinders on the fact that they have the right to free speech.
Yeah. But we haven't got that over here. They're not going to go up against the bailiff, the totally unelected, unaccountable bailiff and the rest of but not one journalist stood up for Leah McGrath Goodman, a fellow journalist, and not one journalist defended their profession against William Balash when he criticised the journalism over here, because he was allowing the journalists were reporting as news stuff from social media or something. I don't know, but not a single journalist defended Leah McGrath Goodman or defended their profession.
Well, it goes back to it's easier to be complacent. If you live in Jersey, it's easy to just shut the fuck up.
We call them mortgage journalists, myself and Rico Sorda.
Yeah.
We call them mortgage journalists.
Yeah.
They report stuff, get their... I remember I contacted one of them years ago. I said, I've got a huge, I've got a document here for you, if you want to run with it and all that, it's massive, it'd be better, look, I'd rather you did it or go to a bigger audience than my blog.
Yeah.
So I finished work at 5, give me a shout tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. And what?
Yeah.
So they're 9 to 5 mortgage journalists. You just can.
Well, they've just had a hard day talking about cats up trees and stuff. You know what I mean? And fucking.
Well, the Graham Power document that we talked about, that the BBC buried, the entire mainstream media buried. It was, and Stuart said it was a journalist's dream of the stuff that was in there.
Yeah.
It just blown the lid off of absolutely everything. They would have given the right arm to have that document.
But nothing.
The entire media buried it.
Yeah, we've still got a long way to go. It sounds like, anyway.
Yeah.
But before we go on to the next bit, because we pretty much covered everything that I wanted to know in regards to, Hope de la Garonne and more, actually, from the perspective of how Jersey's run. Because now we know not to look at the talking heads, because they've got no power. It's looking at the people who hold the real power. So. Yeah. To say that our judicial system is politicised is an understatement.
Of course. I mean, even if there was, let's just say there was no corruption, that the judiciary was clean, the chief judge still presides over the parliament. So of course the judiciary is politicised.
Yeah.
Even just by that, by having those two hats, even if it was clean and squeaky clean, it's still politicised.
And it's still undemocratic. Yeah.
It's still undemocratic. Yeah, of course it is. You've got...
So he's unelected and he has the final say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Yeah, well, that's something for the viewers to think about, at least, because now we know it doesn't matter who the fuck you vote for, it's going to be the same.
Yeah,
Pretty
so
much.
You can vote. You know, you like I say. So you vote for your favourite person because they had a lovely pair of shoes on, or whatever. This is the whole thing. It's a popular. Thank God it's changing now. We're getting party politics sort of idea.
So you support that party politics?
Fully support it. Yeah. So these people are getting voted in because they got a nice pair of shoes. Now, like I was saying, you want that person to represent you.
Yeah.
And you want that person to ask that politician to ask certain questions and bring certain propositions
on your behalf. Yeah.
On your behalf. Well, it's up to the bailiff whether they're allowed to do it or not. So,
So it's pretty pointless in you asking your representative anything.
You can ask. Yeah, you might as well just go straight to the bailiff really and say, look,
yeah.
I'm going to ask my representative to bring this. Is it worth my while asking her or him?
Yeah. I never thought of it that way, but now hopefully me and others do. Is there anything else you want to say on that behalf before I move on to the...
I think that's pretty much covered. I think we've covered that all the way through.
Because you're the best person to say this, as well as Syvret, because I could talk to you both for hours, because you just know your shit in this department, and you've been there from day one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I still can't believe that you got Syvret blogging. That's...
Yeah. I got Deputy Trevor Pittman blogging. I got Deputy Bob Hill blogging.
Well, back then that's the only way that you could reach out to anyone and get, like you say, a balanced point of view.
Yeah.
Or get your side of events across as well.
Well, yeah, that's right. That's all we had because the media were just totally, as I said, that the JEP were lobbying against us. That the media was saying, "Oh, we're conspiracy theorists," and all. But thankfully now the Independent Jersey Care Inquiry vindicated us. The panel member Sandy Cameron, one of the panel members, basically said, in as many words, that there wouldn't have been a care inquiry if it wasn't for the bloggers. The former chief of police basically said there wouldn't have been a care inquiry if it wasn't for the bloggers. The former Home Affairs Minister, Wendy Kinnard, who deserves a big shout here, also said there wouldn't have been a care inquiry if it wasn't for the bloggers. Wendy Kinnard was the Home Affairs Minister when Operation Rectangle first started. Andrew Lewis was the deputy the assistant Home Affairs Minister. Wendy Kinnard was fully supportive of Operation Rectangle, wanted it to carry on and see its way through. They basically got rid of Wendy Kinnard. She has said that she was bullied, intimidated by politicians, the chief minister at the time. So she deserves a huge shout out here. Deputy, I think she was Senator Wendy Kinnard at the time. She suffered a hell of a lot for trying to defend Operation Rectangle. And
so who was her predecessor then? Was it Ian Lamarcon or?
So after Wendy Kinnard, they got rid of Wendy Kinnard. Andrew Lewis, who was the assistant, he stepped up and took over the Operation Rectangle thing. Then he said, although he had said to Wendy Kinnard, she gave this in evidence that he's going to defend Graham Power. She said, don't get rid of him. Whatever happens, don't get rid of him. Don't let the powers that be lean on you. He said, oh, no way. This is what evidence Wendy Kinnard gave. And before you knew it, Andrew Lewis has suspended the chief of police. They got rid of Wendy Kinnard, who supported the Operation Rectangle. As soon as they got rid of her, up pops Andrew Lewis, suspend the chief of police.
What a fucking prick. But then, as well, it's insane to think, obviously through my lenses, it's even weirder to think that they've just basically said to you that if it wasn't for you and others, that it never would have got to where it is today.
The Independent Jersey Care Inquiry, a lot of them, they...
So a bunch of people that I never even knew, a bunch of people that were basically just on their own, do you know what I mean, in this sense?
Well, thankfully we did have political support by the likes of former Deputy Bob Hill, Daniel Wimberley, Mike Higgins,
but before you had that political support, you were just literally running in there and saying something's wrong.
Yeah.
Again, that should never be the case.
No.
There's checks and there should be checks and balances in place to make sure that people like me or everyone else I know were never there in the first place. But even after the fact, we still had somewhere to go, which we didn't. Do you know what I mean?
No.
And then most of us sat there and thought this is a fucking waste of time. Do you know what I mean? I didn't get spoken till I was 32. Do you know what I mean?
By the care inquiry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never spoke to anyone from the care inquiry. I've just been contacted by a lawyer.
Yeah.
No one's ever spoke to me, or I don't know who has. Do you know what I mean? But again, that's very telling in itself. So if they're saying that there wouldn't have been a care inquiry if it wasn't for people like yourself, what does that say about Jersey? So we're one of the richest places on the fucking planet, yet we can't even back our own. We can't even look after our own fucking kids.
No.
I mean, when it's evidence that we were there, like, do you know what I mean? There's evidence of everything.
It was all cover it up, shut it down. It shut this investigation down. Discredit Lenny Harper. By association, you discredit the survivors
and everyone else.
Yeah, that's what it was. The whole of the media were on message, is shut this down. But with the blogs became big. And with myself, Rico Sorda, Polo.
My apologies, by the way.
Your apologies to Polo, because he deserves a huge shout out here as well. The research he's done is phenomenal. Polo, he's one of the huge unsung heroes with all this, by getting the information, documents, facts, evidence out there, And of course, I want to give a huge shout out to. I want to give M a big shout, who's a campaigner. She doesn't want her name to be out there.
Yeah.
She won't even like the fact that I've mentioned this, but she is a huge campaigner that has helped steer things in a positive direction, and she deserves such a big shout out. Her work has gone unnoticed by the majority, but not by those of us in the know. Jill Gracia, same. From Jersey Care Leavers Association.
Yeah.
Carrie Modrell, from the Jersey Care Leavers Association. These people were all supporting the survivors. They were supporting the work us bloggers were doing. Former Deputy Bob Hill, Matt. So, I mean, the list goes on. Daniel Wimberley, Mike Higgins, Montfort Tadier. When you start thinking, I don't want to miss anyone out.
Yeah,
it's difficult. I'm going to miss people out.
I don't know, man. You got
Stuart
all some of
Syvret, and I do apologise that, but so many people need recognition, not least the survivors, for sticking through, like yourself, sticking through this, and fighting, trying to get justice and to get recognition for what you all went through. So it's been a huge lot of people, and a lot of them behind the scenes. But I do, and just another shout out for Polo, because he's helped me and Rico, on so many research things and stuff that blogs he's published himself. Big shout out.
Yeah, because like I say, there's a lot of cogs behind the clock that you don't see.
Yeah.
And again, it's mad to us, to people who, when you start peeling away the bullshit, the mainstream media, how many people behind the scenes who never even knew us. Do you know what I mean? Who are talking about us and trying to get just... It's mad. As you grow up, you think, fucking hell, what? And now that I'm sort of in the same thing, and I watch what, obviously, Cheyenne does, and how much work it is for people just to, and especially for, again, say people who are total strangers, who don't know, they're just after basically what is right. Do you know what I mean?
Well, this is it. We're always seen as if we're radical and... So look, we just want fairness.
Yeah.
We've always been seen as troublemakers and radicals. And
just after justice.
Yeah, we want nothing more, as fairness and justice, openness and honesty and integrity.
Accountability, that's it.
That's it. But everybody think, what we're asking, it's just...
If you read the news, you'd think that you're all fucking trying to bring down the government, when it's them that's trying to bring down themselves, because they're trying to cover up their fuck up.
Well, this is, like I said, I did an interview for Polo, and it's like I said to him, look, they say, you hate the island. This is what they used to say to us, that the establishment and the media, so we're trying to wreck Jersey's reputation. We're not. We're trying to, I love my island.
Yeah.
We
Same
love
here.
our island. Yeah, you love your island. It's, we're trying to, because years ago, because like I said, I've worked all over the UK, on the fishing ports and everything, and I used to defend Jersey, and I used to boast and brag about Jersey. I was naive, I was ignorant. Then, then I found out about Jersey. But they used to call us a Bergerac and all that. It's a bit of a piss take, millionaires, tax dodgers. You can take that on the chin.
Yeah.
But now they're calling us paedophiles. Now they're calling us paedophile protectors.
Yeah.
I say, hang on a minute. I'm saying, look, we're not all like that.
Yeah.
Have a look at my blog. Some of us are fighting against it. So this is what hurts me, and I'm sure hurts others. Say, look, this isn't the island I love. We're not paedophile. We're not all paedophiles. We're not all paedophile protectors.
No, when they're saying you're trying to trash it, you're trying to make it better.
Yeah, I'm trying to say, look, we're not all like that.
But nothing can be better without accountability. It's as simple as that.
No, that's right.
Without honesty and accountability, you'll never get anything better. It just ends up brushed under the rug until the next time, and then it gets worse and worse and worse. And it's the level of immaturity that gets me, because in society, if I do something wrong, which I've done a lot of times, I have to go to jail or I have to go and pay my penance, whatever the fuck that may be.
There's consequences.
There's consequences, yeah. For normal people, there's always consequences. For poor people, I'd argue more fucking consequences than anyone else. But for these people, none.
No.
Like you say, the statistics are what? How many people? 192 cases or whatever the fuck? 3 got done?
7%.
7%. There you go.
Of them got done. 7%. There's only 7 convictions,
I think if you got mine and everyone else's conviction rate from the shed, we'd definitely be 99%. Yeah. We would have only got, within our lives, we probably would have only got away with 1% of what we've done.
Yeah, it's only that, like you say, the poor and working classes that basically have to face justice.
Yeah.
The ruling clique, the ruling cabal over here, they don't.
No. They own the justice. That's why they don't.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to move on now because these are just things that I'm interested in. Mm-hmm. So you'll probably find them comical. Are you left or right? As in the political spectrum?
I've done a political compass, and I'm left of centre.
Yeah, I think I was as well.
Yeah, and I'm quite left, but I don't know if it's more right wing I'm becoming, or less left wing, or less tolerable. I'm getting more intolerant of. I think the left at the minute, there's a lot of these snowflakes, for instance. You can't say anything nowadays without offending anybody.
Yeah.
Whether it's whether it's racial, whether it's anti-Semitic, whether it's trans, and I don't know if this is by accident or not, or whether it's by design.
It's definitely by design, because if you make people what's the word,
scared to speak, to say, that
it's by design, by very smart people.
Yeah. And, I see people now saying the likes of, Tommy Robinson, for instance, that there are others, Donald Trump, a lot of left saying, they don't deserve a voice, they should be struck. Here's the thing, Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, was kicked off of Twitter.
Yeah.
Al Qaeda have got a fucking Twitter.
I know.
So, but when they're saying, he doesn't deserve a voice, because he's homophobic, or not just Trump, he's homo, or he's racist, or he's anti-trans. You should silence them and don't give them a voice in the media. Well, I don't buy into that. I do because whilst they're shutting up the racists and all, they'll be coming for you next.
They always do.
Yeah,
that's the way it's always worked. So, like, when people jump on that, this is the problem with the left. I'm not tolerant of the intolerant. In the sense of, like, the left used to be tolerant. Yeah, we disagree, but let's try and find a middle ground. That used to be the left. That used to be liberal thinking. Obviously, they're never going to see eye to eye with the right. They're never going to see eye to eye with capitalism, etc. Fair enough. That's fine. Right? I can talk to them people. I can't talk to the people who basically want to burn down institutions because they believe that they can come up with something better. And their idea of better is normally communism or something close to that mark. Which is then where you sit there and go, well, maybe I'm still liberal in the sense that I've always been left, but you're the one who shifted the ground beneath me. I'm just not as left as you. And the problem is, I coined a phrase 2 years ago and everyone fucking hates me for it because it's coming true. The left will eat themselves. Just like you were saying there. You can't be vegan enough in the left. You can't be, you can't be this enough. You can't be that. You can't be climate change enough. You can't be anything enough because every year it shifts more dramatic that way. And I think it's Jordan Peterson, the clinical psychiatrist in America. He said, right, we know the right can go too far. We know when they can get too racist, too this, too that. We know when they can go too far. When can the left go too far? Until you can answer that question, no one knows where they are because the ground shifted so much.
Yeah.
And I have this shit all the time. And again, everyone who's appeared on this show, I'd say is pretty left. I'd say everyone was on the spectrum. Yeah. I don't care enough to say whether I'm left or right because I generally don't give a fuck.
I think that's pretty much where I'm going now. I was sort of left, but I just think the left are spoiling it. I say, you just, it's you're not allowed to offend. I mean, I don't give offence. People take it. I laughed at a funny joke that Lindsay Ash put up. I think it's calling Oprah Winfrey something to do with a football player. She looked like a football player, or a football player looked like her. And I found it funny. I don't know if you remember it. Something like that.
Yeah, it was, who is it? Yeah, I remember this, and everyone called it racist. And you're like, it's a comparison.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I found it funny. I'm sorry if you took offence to that.
Yeah.
But that, I didn't try, I didn't tell the joke, but I just found it, oh, that's offensive. I think, well, so what? I found it funny, and if you take offence to that, well, that's your problem.
Not mine.
Yeah, I didn't come out to personally offend you.
Yeah.
I just found something funny.
You took it.
Yeah, you took the offence. I didn't give it.
Yeah.
So that's the downside, that of the left, that you just... Yeah,
I think that's where a lot of people. I want to say older liberals are. I think a lot of young liberal-minded people think the same way as me. I'm just not the fucking loony left.
yeah.
I don't go out my way every day to be offended, because if you go online, or because now we're all interconnected, there comes with a certain responsibility there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to be that arrogant to think that you're going to go online where you're essentially, you can beam anywhere in the world. Do you know what I mean? You can speak to people from America, Russia, whatever, right? To assume that you're not going to see or hear anything that offends you tells me that you've never had any problems in your fucking life.
But this is what happens. And like I say, that they're shutting down these people. Say, oh, he's offended so many people, so we're going to shut them down. They're going to be shutting down absolutely everybody and everything. And all you're going to get then is the official narrative. And this is everything we've been fighting against all these years.
This is literally what we spent the last 2 hours talking about, how they fucked up.
Yeah. So when the left say, oh, yeah, shut that right-winger down, don't let him have a voice, or don't let her have a voice, say, it'll be you next, you idiot.
Yeah.
Don't shut anybody down.
Just debate them.
Yeah, debate them.
If it doesn't hold water, or they are in fact racist or transphobic or whatever, in the debate it will come out. And then we'll do what we've done as a society for a very long time. We'll just ostracise them and go fuck off.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now the what people call cancel culture or whatever it is one of them things that is heavily leaning to the left. You very rarely find right-wing people or people on the right who want to cancel people. Very rarely.
No,
I mean,
I totally agree.
There is things, and that's societal, but there is things like the policing bill and stuff that I've covered with Nat Sims and stuff. There are things that are a detriment, along with COVID, things that they've implemented. And, when people turn around and say it's conspiracy and stuff, and you're like, don't be so quick to jump on conspiracy theorists. 9 times out of 10, it turns out they're fucking right. Yeah. The only thing they don't have on their side is time. They've got to be right now, and then in 5 years you turn around and go, fuck, I should have listened. By then it's too late.
I think I've seen a thing of Garrett, again, David Icke, you must have heard of him. Very, he thinks outside the box, but his son, I think, is Gareth Icke.
Yeah.
He said 5 years ago, he was saying that about the old COVID and all the rest of it, and how I don't know if it's the New World Order or something. I don't understand it.
He said it is going to be a microchip. The end game, I do know of David Icke. I was reading them when I was 17. The end goal, and this goes back to when I was 17, is to get a microchipped or thingy population where everything runs off a card or a digital ID. He said that a very long time ago, because I remember reading it in a book when I was 17, 18.
I remember Gareth Icke, when he just said, I can't remember, it was like, he said, when I was saying this stuff 5 or 10 years ago, he said everybody was calling me a nutcase and a conspiracy theorist and a lunatic. He said, now that it's all come true what I said, everybody's saying, well, it ain't so bad, it's the way, hang on a minute. This was totally unbelievable and I was a nutcase 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But now that it's all come to fruition, you're thinking, well, it's okay. You've accepted it. Yeah. How did that happen? How did that transition happen?
They've got time.
It's the media, but
it's called the. I think the phrase that he uses is it's the totalitarian tiptoe. You can't go, from one to you can't go straight there because people will go, well, that's a bit,
Yeah.
So you just go there over time. Do you know what I mean? They've got time. They can do this over generations.
Bit by bit.
Yeah. Which is why now, especially, this is why it's a slow groom. It's not so bad after a while. Do you know what I mean? It's a slow groom that they do. It's not. If they walked up tomorrow, let's say, I don't know, last year, pre-COVID, and went, stay in your fucking house, you're not coming out. Everyone would go, what the fuck are you on about?
Well,
But now, people would be more accepting now if, say, before Christmas, they turn around and went, there's cases spiking now, you all got to stay home again. Yeah. Well, you've been groomed into this now.
See, I don't get it. I just don't. Do you know what? Again, sometimes I do think it's just lucky it's not just me because I do chat to others. I remember on Liberation Day, we were liberated. We had freedom from the Germans and everything. People were celebrating it over here. I think it's May the 9th, they're celebrating it. Yeah, it's Liberation Day, it's Liberation Day. and they were under, if you like, for the best, house arrest.
Yeah.
They were confined to their houses. They weren't allowed outside their house.
Celebrating fucking Liberation Day.
Celebrating Liberation Day, and you think, what the bloody hell, it's, you do think, Christ almighty. But yeah, I don't know, I don't understand all this.
So I'm assuming you're against all this, the measures against COVID and stuff, like in the sense of now it's taking the piss. Everyone's got their jabs, everyone's done what they were told. Now it's starting to edge on something that's a bit more than our health.
But we're going down that route again. Like I say, I remember when we were, like we've discussed tonight quite a lot, when we were exposing the lies, cover-ups and corruptions of the law officers department, the government and the rest of it. Oh, we're all conspiracy theorists, liars,
crazy
wreckers, crazy. Now, if you question, so you know, people were too scared to speak out like we were, because I think I'm going to get called a conspiracy theorist. So now we're back to it again. If I just question, you know, anything about the vaccine or anything about the measures that have been put in place, you're an anti-vaxxer, you're a fucking 5G lunatic or a bloody microchip. I know, I'm just asking a question.
Yeah.
How has it become that
so
people...
polarised.
Yeah, that people are scared to ask a question. How did that happen? How did we get to that stage? Now, with the old Kung Flu, I think, well, you know, I look at it, I don't get heavily involved in it, I just can't be asked.
Yeah.
Now,
I don't blame you.
What I do know is we were told, get the vaccine, it's your passport to freedom.
Yeah.
If you're all vaccinated, then, you know, everything will be wonderful. We'll all be free again. Get vaccinated.
Now it's the third one. And a fourth.
Yeah, there's boosters and all sorts. So now, I don't know, there's about 80% of people vaccinated over here.
Yeah.
The cases are going up.
Yeah.
And they're still talking about restrictions and everything. And I thought, well, hang on a minute. If, the vaccine was our saviour, and how come a politician who you recently interviewed, he was on Twitter saying he's got the old Kung Flu.
Yeah.
So double jabbed, wears masks and does all that. But here's the thing. It's actually Rico Sorda asked him on Twitter, if you had just arrived at the airport, would you have been tested? And the answer is no. So this double jabbed person, because he's double jabbed, doesn't get tested at the airport.
Right.
Is free to go around and spread this disease all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, how the bloody hell does that work? I mean, where is the sense in that? You know, I need things to make... Maybe it's just me,
No, it's not. It's me as well.
It just needs to make sense to me. And none of it does make sense.
Well, that's what I tried to say to Mazek. If the unvaccinated are only a danger to themselves, what's the problem?
Yeah.
Because if you're vaccinated, what's the fucking problem?
Yeah.
And if over... I remember reading it. You remember Fauci's emails got leaked a while ago? He said in his emails, and he said, it's on record, and I think this is pretty standard... thinking with epidemiology and stuff like that when the R number gets to a certain way, it will die out on its own. That's his quote, not mine. I'm not talking about it. This didn't come from fucking Alex Jones, right? And then he moved the goalposts. So now fully vaccinated now means 3 jabs. So first it's a jab, get your jab, then you can have your freedom. It's like, just get the booster jab, then you can have your freedom. Now it's get all 3 jabs. Now get all 3 jabs, then you're considered fully vaccinated to get this COVID pass and leave your country.
Yeah.
Like in Austria, they just locked down the country. In Rotterdam 2 nights ago, they used live rounds on people protesting the Green Pass. Live rounds. So I don't know when the last time this happened, but I think a guy got shot in the leg, someone else lost their finger, I think. I put up on Twitter. I was like, is this the mark? Is this where we all say, no, this has gone too far? Now they're rounding people up in Australia, mainly indigenous people, and taking them to a facility where where's the mark? And this is why I don't believe in Antifa. I think they're a bunch of cunts. But I keep hashtagging, where's Antifa? Surely this is fascism. So you can run around the streets in 2021 or 2020, whatever it was, with BLM and stuff and smash things up, and then, you're against fascism. Okay, cool. Where the fuck are they now?
Yeah.
When it really means something, because my idea of Antifa and stuff is that they're just a political arm of the Democratic Party, because, again, they're not actually fighting fascism.
No.
They're literally just there as to fuck things up around... there was a rapper who said it recently, Black lives only matter once every 4 years. Same as Antifa. It's a political arm. That people should know that by now. If I'm the first person to say it, fucking hell. But again, I keep hashtagging where's Antifa. So they use live rounds on people. Where's Antifa? They're locking down unvaccinated people in Austria. Where's Antifa? This is fascism.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it comes. Yeah. It doesn't matter if it comes because of a flu or a virus of any sort, a healthcare emergency. It's still fascism. You still have bodily autonomy. You still have rights. That's that. There shouldn't be any question about that. Which is why a load of left people think that I'm right because I question the left.
Yeah,
Which
I think it's important to question everybody and everything. It's really important to question. With the all kung flu, the COVID is. I believe there is a COVID
virus.
disease.
Yeah, I believe there's a virus. Yeah,
but and it makes me laugh because people who are double jabbed or triple jabbed or whatever, they say I've caught the old COVID. Thank God I had the jabs. Imagine how bad it would have been if I hadn't have had the jabs.
How do you know that?
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Well, how do you know? Because they're told. So if you hadn't, so they think it'll be much, much worse. But I read something the other day. I think it's Gibraltar, or the most,
I put that up. Gibraltar's the most vaxxed place in the world. It's actually 118%
vaccinated.
Yeah, right.
And it's got the highest.
Yeah, and now they're locking down for Christmas.
They're locking down for Christmas. Again, this doesn't make sense to me. Now, like I say, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not an anti-COVID. I question, and I think it's fundamental.
You should do.
That we have to question authority. We have to question the official narrative, because if we don't, look what's happening across the world. And I remember with the COVID, when it first came out, the mainstream media was showing Chinese men dying on the streets, dropping dead on the streets.
It's never happened.
I think, whatever happened to that? Why aren't they doing that anymore?
Yeah.
And they'll say, because they've been jabbed now. Really?
But we never seen that in our streets or Britain's streets.
No. That's it. You've never seen it anywhere else. And you think, wait a minute. And I used to watch a lot of Michael Moore films, Bowling for Columbine, Fahrenheit 9/11. And he's right. The media keep you in fear. That's what the mainstream media does for the government.
Yeah.
Because, the government creates the problem and then becomes the saviour of the problem.
Yeah. Problem, reaction, solution.
Is that what I knew there was something along those lines. Yeah. And this is what it is. And because of I'm not paranoid, I'm experienced. There's a big difference. And all the entire mainstream media are coming out with the same narrative and questioning nothing.
Yeah.
I think, hang on a minute. Wait a minute. Why is nobody in the mainstream media questioning the science, questioning the lockdowns,
the logic?
Yeah. Like the airport. When you're queuing up to get on an aeroplane, you're all 6 feet apart to queue up.
And you sit on a
put you on
fucking
an aeroplane
plane
next to each other, and you think, it's just doesn't make sense. And again, that's not anti-vax. It's they can say, he's an anti-vaxxer. And again, I don't care what people think. All I do is I question stuff, and more people should question.
Yeah,
because
100%.
We're going to be a totalitarian state. This is where we're heading.
Oh yeah,
into a totalitarian state where you're not allowed to question anything, or you're too scared to question anything.
The person the other day in I think it's in Victoria. I'm not too sure. So if I get this wrong, forgive me. But one of the people in charge in Australia said, with no irony, no joke about it, he said, if you side with anyone who's anti-mandate, if you're against anyone who's against the vaccine, or you march in the streets or whatever for your freedom, then you are an anti-vaxxer. And I was like, so now you're changing definitions.
Yeah.
Like, I've had all my jabs. My kids have had all their jabs. I'm a shit anti-vaxxer. I'm as bad as an anti-vaxxer as Carl Rittenhouse is a fucking white supremacist. But logic doesn't mean anything anymore. It does not mean anything, because now, and this is a problem that I think I have with the left, it's more left-leaning people that are doing this. Well, again, there's only a few on the left that I know that are standing up to this stuff. The rest of them are, you're going to kill my grandma, you need to get the vaccine. You're like, what happened to bodily autonomy? I thought my body, my choice.
Yeah.
I thought that was the biggest fucking thing.
Yeah, but again, this is what it does. I don't know whether it's by accident or design, but what it is keeping the population divided. Mm-hmm. And for as long as we know, we go back to the memorial for the abuse survivors.
Yeah.
We went through a stage where the abuse survivors were divided. Some wanted a memorial, some didn't.
Yeah.
And Cheyenne worked really hard on that, and she managed to through the citizens panel as well. you know, and they
But
managed
she
to
made it democratic.
yeah, and they
Yeah.
made it, you know, they listen to both sides and they come to a, you know, a
Conclusion,
compromise,
yeah.
like, you know, which was great because, you know, the establishment loved the survivors divided because, you know, anybody united against the establishment become a threat.
Yeah.
So this is why I think put the vax out. So then the people who are vaxxed are going to be against the people who aren't vaxxed. And again, everybody's divided, but the establishment and the media, the mainstream media, are all united.
Yeah,
You know,
always.
so I think, you know, it basically
It's divide and conquer. It always has been.
yeah.
And it's the easiest and oldest game to play.
Yeah, you know, maybe it's a coincidence, maybe it's a conspiracy that but you know, I don't know. But what I do know is people across the world are divided. There's protests all over the place against the lockdowns, against all that, and there's people protesting against the anti-vaxxers. It's just everybody, you know, is divided except for the mainstream media and the establishment.
Maybe we can learn a thing or two of them.
Well, certainly the left could and should.
Yeah.
The left, like you say, they always destroy themselves.
Yeah.
Every single time. I think one of the problems is that a lot of them, like especially the politicians I know over here, they wear their heart on their sleeve. Do you know what I mean? And that is a big problem with it. Like, you know,
it's a plus and a minus at the same time.
yeah.
It's a plus to get votes, but it's a minus when it comes to the long game.
Whereas the establishment won't throw anybody under a bus.
No.
You know, they won't throw one of their own under a bus. They'll take a bullet for each other.
Yeah,
you know, and that's the way.
They're always one unit.
They're always one unit. Yeah. And the left have never, ever been able to do that.
Yeah. Which is a shame, but at the same time, like I say, it's regardless of loyalty and stuff like that, I call it how I see it. And that's the reason that I've been calling out the left a lot over the last couple of years, especially since this COVID shit. Because it has been divisive. At the same time, if there's literally hundreds of thousands of people marching, it doesn't matter if you're vaxxed or not, you should be marching with them. Because quite simply, it's going to come full circle. Same as free speech, I say it all the time, look after your speech because one day you might need it. Yeah. It's only people who have never had things taken from them that don't see what I'm saying. Yeah. But that just proves to me that you shouldn't be listened to from my angle, because if you've never had anything taken from you, you shouldn't be sitting at the table with me. Do you know what I mean?
People don't realise how much freedom of speech is going. I say not just, and it's through fear. You know, because the establishment, especially over here, they don't need to say, right, we're shutting you up. They just put in laws, they put in legislation.
Yeah.
You know, you think, oh God, what happens if I say this? Oh my God, what happens? Yeah. You know, and again, like you say, well, if I question the jab, all these people are going to call me a conspiracy theorist, and they're going to call me, you know, think that I'm into the 5G carry on and all. You know, I just won't say anything, and it's worked because I think, do you know what? I can't be. It's not that. It's not that I'm scared to say it.
The moment you do what you just done there and go, I can't be asked. That it's worked. It's done.
Then the
job's done. Yeah.
You know, but
now they can control the next narrative after the jab.
Yeah.
Then they can go to something else, and then it's weird times. Like I say, when I've done the show with John Grist, that was that was last year, I think. But it was early in the pandemic. We didn't really know what was going on. I had questions. He knew his shit. Simple as that. But I still stand by everything I said in that. I still don't support mandates. I still would never have anyone tell me what I can and can't do over a health issue. Do you know what I mean? And not only that, if it does go to COVID passes, does that mean then the government know my health history? Well, is that what happens? Is there any separation there?
Well, again, you just reminded me, because I did a blog about, again, like you're saying, when this first come out, the old pandemic, I did a blog about it. I didn't know anything about it. None of us knew anything about it. But what I do know is we got a new director of communications over here. We used to call it, what was it? Dirk Dastardly. I can't remember his name. Something Dirk Forsyth or something. He was a new communications officer over here.
Right.
The head of communications. One of the first things he put out was, don't listen to what you read on social media.
Yeah, I remember this. Yeah.
Only listen to what the mainstream media tell you and all that. And I wrote it as in my blog. Anybody wants to see it. I said, I'll tell you what's going to happen here is only the official narrative is going to be allowed. And I predicted it, but this was back when it first started. I think it was, February, March, April 2020.
Yeah.
I think it was April 2020.
And you were right, because now everything's taken down.
That's it. Everything's exactly. Anybody, Facebook are taking things, YouTube, they're all taking stuff down. Alex Belfield, I recommend any of your viewers subscribe to Alex Belfield on YouTube. because he quoted Chris Whitty. Okay, this is on video.
Yeah.
He quoted him verbatim, word for word, Chris Whitty.
Yeah.
Alex Belfield's YouTube video got taken down. It got taken down for quoting, this is how bad it's become.
Yeah.
Why can't you have, YouTube's taking stuff, Facebook, Twitter. Surely we can question the official narrative. And I'm not saying, that people say, oh yeah, but there's all these conspiracy theorists.
What?
So what?
So what? But if there's 5% of people who believe the fucking Earth's flat, let them crack on.
Yeah.
Who gives a fuck? It doesn't hurt you. Do you know what I mean?
People can see through bullshit.
Yeah.
And what they're saying is what these people are saying, like YouTube and the mainstream media and all that, saying, well, the public are too thick to know what's the truth and what isn't, what's fact and what's fiction.
So
the
just
public
listen
are
to
thick.
us. Yeah.
So just listen to what we tell you.
Yeah.
Well, look, we're not that thick. We are able to do our own research. If something looks like bullshit and smells like bullshit, we're going to know it's bullshit. Like the official version of events that the media was putting out about Operation Rectangle, and we were proved right because we smelt bullshit from them. Now, if somebody's going on, I don't know what caused this Kung Flu, COVID. I don't know what caused it. What I do know is the official version doesn't stack up.
No.
The official version doesn't, so surely I'm allowed to question that. Don't take that right and that freedom away from me. Don't make me or anybody else scared to question something.
Well, that's in the beginning of the pandemic, I watched a guy called Dr. John Campbell, who's on YouTube. He's a doctor. He's just a GP, right? So he came on every day and he was talking about epidemiology. He's talking about where the cases are going. He's pretty fucking bang on where the cases go in that 2-week stint. So you have like 2 weeks where it rises and then you have to see another 2 weeks before it goes down, and what lockdowns do, what masks do. He's a doctor, right?
Yeah.
Now, I normally don't watch that sort of stuff because it's telling us what we already know. But when he done a show recently on, he was cross-referencing the countries that used ivermectin in India, Africa, and somewhere else, South America, right? So he's cross-referencing the numbers and he's saying, right, they put it into a computer module and whatever it was, and he was talking about the findings. And then he weighed it on a molecular level against the new Pfizer drug, the new tablet that they've got that kills it up to 50%.
I've heard about it, yeah.
Right, which is less effective than ivermectin. That's what he's saying. So then he got fact-checked, right? So he's a GP, right? So he studied all his life in medicine, right? He obviously looks after patients, etc. And he got fact-checked, and he put the CY, on Facebook. So he went into why he got fact-checked. He went down the list of the people that fact-checked him. Everyone, bar one, was a journalist. So at the end of the video, he sat there and he went, I've got a bad fucking shoulder now, I might as well go and phone my fucking local journalist. Who the fuck are these people to fact-check him?
Well, it makes me laugh because you got, forgotten her name now. It's a fact, what do you call them?
Fact-checker.
Fact-checker.
Yeah.
The BBC.
Oh, fucking hell.
BBC have got, who lie like a rug, who protect paedophiles. You got the BBC fact-checking. You couldn't write this shit.
No.
They are the most... there's the propaganda, lies and everything from the BBC. And it's just the irony that you got somebody from the BBC fact-checking.
Anyone. About anything.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's scary where we're going because of this virus. The free speech is being shut down. The likes of mainstream journalists and particularly the BBC fact-checking anybody or anything is scary shit.
No. Definitely, 100%, I agree. Is there anything else you want to add? Any final thoughts?
No, that's. I think we've covered most. Again, like I said at the beginning of this, concerning Operation Rectangle, the suspension of the chief of police and everything else that went with it. We haven't scraped the surface. You and
couldn't
I.
do.
We couldn't do. I thank you for giving this platform for the likes of myself and others to sit down and speak freely. Long may it continue, because we need long. I know the work you put into this is phenomenal with your editing and all the rest of it. You're doing it for nothing. It's a thankless task. I know, but I want to thank you for this opportunity. Long may it continue that we can talk, and we can talk in depth, not just in 20-second, 30-second sound bites like we get from the mainstream media. So, No, I'm a huge supporter of what you do. I'm a huge supporter of what Cheyenne does. I know what you guys have been through. I know the death threats you've received and Cheyenne's received, the threats of violence. We've all had these threats. And again, like I say, if it happens to a politician over here, they get called a nasty name. But the likes of us that are just trying to bring a voice for the voiceless, that we face, what we've got to face in intimidation and threats and that. So I know what you're going through, and I admire you for doing it, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Well, thank you for coming on, man. More than likely, if it wasn't for you, I probably wouldn't have started this up, because you actually gave me the oomph early on when I had the idea. Because I just wanted to interview Stuart at first. I thought I'd do a one-time thing. I'll probably borrow your cameras and your stuff and ask you to edit it. But then I thought, fuck it now, actually, because I thought I've been following you for years. So obviously, I was going to have you earlier on, but I wanted the show to fit. And now more than ever, especially for, it's sort of like paralleled looking back as to the times that we're in now, why you should be questioning everything, especially over here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we literally just given you every bit of evidence as to why you should not be listening to the mainstream fucking narrative.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, people just need to question. And if it's on the mainstream media, certainly over here, there's a good chance.
Question it twice.
Yeah. Question it. That's right. It's not, and that's through experience that I can say that, with confidence.
100%, man.